Hello, everybody. It's your old friends at Nerds of Us, and welcome back to the Best of All Worlds podcast here. Happy New Year, everybody, where you are joining us in the hedonistic year of 2025, where, shockingly, according to Star Trek, Irish unification has not happened. Sorry, guys, that we've let you down. We have actually let you down there. Gene Roddenberry is spinning in his grave right now, knowing that his Republican brethren has not liberated the country. But so look, what can you do? You know, shit happens. Schedules get delayed and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it wouldn't be Ireland if we didn't do it on time. To be fair, wouldn't it? Like, otherwise it'd been weird. But nevertheless, this is our first episode of the new year, and excitingly enough, appropriately enough, even it's the start of our new arc, Jerry Soul. Because we are jumping into a whole episode, or well, episodes based around wars and conflicts and tensions. Oh, that's really that's the theme of 2025, isn't it, people? Political tensions. Yay! Again, we're recording this like pre-2025, so I've actually no idea what I'm talking about, but I think we can hazard a guess, can't we?
World has probably gone to flames. It's fine.
It is, to be fair. But however, we're here at the moment, and we're starting off actually this arc, Jerry, with some Star Trek Voyager, and one of the kind of, I guess you can call it actually a relatively minor skirmish in the grand scheme of things between the humans and the Kazon. How much of the Kazon do you recall?
I see. This is the thing about the Kazon. I think they missed a trick with the Kazon. I think they could have done more with them. Because when you first meet them, they seem like this ragtag group of bandits. Oh yeah, that's essentially it. But then all of a sudden, when you see the fleet battle, you're like, "Holy shit! Look at the size of these ships. They're absolutely huge. Like they would dwarf even a Galaxy class."
Yeah,
you know. So these are big ships. Now obviously they have a lot of smaller ones, but you've got the bigger ones. I'm like, this is insane. How absolutely huge they are. So I think they missed a trick to make them a little bit more, I suppose, vicious, to make them a little bit more dangerous, because they are, Voyager always seem to be better than them. Simple as that, Well, apart from the time that Kazon stole Voyager, but that's neither here nor there. But I definitely think they missed a trick with them, because I think they needed to have a bit more of a dread about them, that as soon as they appeared in the sensors, the Voyagers were like, shit, let's get the hell out of here. Almost like the Borg in a way, because whenever they came on sensors, Voyager would just turn the other way. I just think that they could have done a bit more with them. But what we got, I enjoyed. Right the way up until that episode, that two-parter where Voyager was essentially stolen. And that's a great two-parter as well.
Yeah,
because you don't
basics, I think it is.
Yeah, you don't see it coming. You're really like, oh shit, oh god. And then of course you've got Chucky is part of the crew at that point, or Grima Wormtongue, whichever one you want to use. He's part of the crew at that time, which was so left field. You're like, this is a really big actor. What the fuck's doing that Voyager? Like,
it lulls you into false sense of security. It's like, okay,
exactly.
he has to be doing something here. Yeah,
exactly. But my God, was he good? So, to go from this kind of arc, when the start of Voyager, to the episode we're watching now and then onwards, the Kazon do have like that looming sense behind them, but not quite as much as I would have liked. I would have liked for them to be a really serious threat, because they weren't. Voyager didn't really take them that seriously. Voyager kicked the crap out of them so many times. So it would have been nice to be like, for Voyager to be properly outgunned by them at every response. So every time Voyager went, they had to run away. Whereas Voyager just went in and knocked the shit out of them most of the time, So
essentially, I don't think it actually really kind of like started off on a good foot in like the pilot episode, where basically they held the very concept of water against the Kazon. It's like, oh, you want this sweet delicious water? Well, go and get it. I get what they're trying to say. It was like, it's a lovely little culture clash between them and the Delta Quadrant, where like water is somehow a premium. I was like, I can believe that. Like there could be a lot of desert planets. You don't know what the kind of galaxy is like, as it were, over that side. And having to know that, like, like you might be actually treating someone luxurious by giving someone, like, say, Neelix a bath, and he's there literally drinking the water because he doesn't know any better. It's like, Neelix, please, like, it's your first time on the ship. Don't make a bad impression. Oh, too late. Never mind.
It's certainly interesting, that one was. Like, oh jeez, he's drinking bad water. Like, fucking hell.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, that's if that doesn't set up how much people weren't a fan of the Neelix character, then well, I can't really speak volumes any more than that. But in any case, yes, we as Jerry alluded to there, the one episode that we are watching tonight is State of Flux, where it is very much a Kazon oriented episode. That was the majority of the first season, really. We pretty much like landed full plant into Kazon space, so there was quite a lot of it around the season, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think it actually indeed got punctuated with the basics double header at the end of season one, or at least certainly season two. Just even confirm myself here. Yes, it was basics was the end of season two. So we had a nice bit of like, and that was really kind of the, as I recall, the end of the Kazon arc, if I remember correctly, that two-parter. I
Hmm.
don't remember them showing up again and the rest of the rest of the run of Voyager. So we kind of reach a kind of like this is, I suppose, like a nice little nadir for the Kazon story because we introduced another character we haven't mentioned yet, which was Seska. And Seska was a part of the Maquis resistance that Chakotay and Tuvok were part of, and obviously a major part of the first season was trying to see how the Maquis reintegrated back into a Starfleet-oriented crew, with ranks and responsibilities and roles all in between. And well, in fairness, they there was a lot. It was a bit more seamless than it should have been, realistically speaking.
Yeah,
But nevertheless, there was still a few flashpoints here and there in a few episodes, which we're going to get into now. So, Jerry, so are you ready to watch State of
I'm
Flux?
ready to rock.
Indeed. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, this is the best of all worlds. It is both watch along and review. So, we are going to jump in and review this episode with some of our witty remarks and commentary. Mostly Jerry to fans. I just kind of waffle on, if you haven't noticed already. So we press play when we do on your streaming service of choice, and you can get our live thoughts on the episode. If not, give us about 45 minutes on the video, and you can get our reviews and trivia on this episode and see how it ranks among all the other episodes we've done on this show. So yeah, in that case, then let's jump straight in on three, two, one, play.
Play.
Oh my god, an outdoor set. This never
Play.
happens.
What do you mean? What do you mean play? It's always engage.
Of course it's in God. Jesus. It's been months since I've done this. I'm out of fucking practice. I'd be a terrible spaceship captain if I sat on the bridge and went play. It was like,
Yeah.
play what, sir? The holodeck? It was like, sure, why not? I'm a big fan of discount column meanie here.
This
It's not quite column meanie, it's column mini.
Yeah.
Do you think it was like he was like mandated by Starship crews at this stage that like, listen, your man O'Brien on Deep Space Nine is putting a blind there. We need curly head gingers on all ships.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well,
something
yeah,
to do
well,
with the
listen,
genetics.
all you have to do is look at the announcement that came over the last few days, how another curly-haired ginger is going to be on Starfleet Academy, and that's, of course, Becky Lynch, wrestler.
If she is not a direct descendant of Chief O'Brien, I'm gonna be so fucking furious.
Ah, I'd be pissed off, wouldn't you?
She'd have to be a chief petty officer. She needs the special uniform with the little fucking
Well,
scalpels.
she says she's going to be a bridge crew member.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
Very intrigued.
I can't wait to see it. Another Irish person on Star Trek. Yes.
Fucking mental. Like it's also the fact that I was like there is genuinely a world where Robert Picardo and like Becky Lynch are in the same room. Like, how does that fucking work? Like they mental.
Well, I was in the same room as both of them at one point, so
That's true. At two very different times, it has to be said. But you're the link between the two. You're the bridge between them.
listen, I didn't want to toot my own horn, but I got her the job. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's fair. Listen, do you think she's been kind of practicing by watching all Voyager episodes and trying to do the Janeway stance?
I'm just curious to see if she actually a Trekkie. I'd be
I
very
say she,
curious to see if she's an
I say
actual
she
Trekkie.
is. Yeah. I think like she's coming from the same generation as us, and like it was hard to avoid Star Trek on Irish TV because it was either on Sky or BBC or a mixture of the two. It was always on somewhere, and you always
Yeah.
had like either a parent or grandparent who loved the original series of Star Trek as well. So it was hard to avoid it. we're a very ideological people, Ireland. So we have to we find if we find a show that's like, oh look, see, look, here's where everything is fine. A show where everything is fine. We'll take that. Ooh, fancy. You always have that one friend in the group that just kind of just does a disappearing act on nights
Yeah,
out, don't you? And
that's normally
if you don't
me.
have one, yeah, it's you. If you don't have one in your group, it's you. Ah, look at that great Californian.
I do love these outdoor sets. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
it's a lot of the time it's the same thing. Like there's another Kazon episode where we
Mm,
have Aaron Eisenberg who
that's
plays the
right. Yeah.
Kazon, and it's the same fucking set. It's the same outdoor California mountainous range set.
Yeah, it's Orange County, I think.
Still looks great.
Yeah. I think this is literally the same area as that episode where Picard and Crusher are telepathically linked. And
Yeah.
the two of them are running down that kind of hill, and there's that hilarious outtake of where, like, Picard, like, or Patrick Stewart goes, "Ah, Gate stepped on my fucking foot." Hut, hut, hut.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, that's it.
Here, Seska, what the bleeding hell are you doing in here? That would be Becky Lynch.
Yeah, I was at the same. So it's also us presuming that she's gonna be human in it. Like, I think she could be any race she wants.
Oh, I know, but she has to be an O'Brien descendant. Come on.
Yeah,
She
I
has to
know. It's.
be the most important man in all of Starfleet. You better believe
I'll
it.
be honest with you. I can see Becky Lynch as a Bajoran. Like, there's a bit of
Yeah,
Irish in the Bajoran.
yeah, or just not a Vulcan. Jesus, not a
Oh,
Vulcan.
that would be hilarious though. Trying to see her like be stone faced and like doing her little eyebrow twitches.
Mm. Do
Dun, dun,
Okay.
dun.
Interesting so far.
Yes, it's a hot start.
We were introduced in one of the most important food substances in all of Star Trek, Leola
Yes.
root.
Oh yeah. It's the bedrock of many of Neelix's stews.
Oh, Leola root stew. Jesus.
I know.
And I always, whenever I think of food in Star Trek, there's certain things, and I'm like, wouldn't mind trying that or stuff. When Neelix made coffee one time for Captain
Mm,
Janeway and it was like sludge,
yeah.
I'm like, I really want to try that. I'll eat it with a spoon. I won't drink it. I'll eat it with a spoon.
Yeah, he
I'm like, I
accidentally
want
made
to,
like chocolate ice cream or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I want to fucking try that. That looks nice. And
Mm.
then there's been various times where the food just looks unreal. Like even some of the Klingon stuff, I'm like, I'd give that a go. I'd give it a go. I'm like, fuck it, let's try it.
You
It
want
didn't
like a
look
fresh
good.
bowl of gack. That's what you want as
Yeah,
a yeah.
fresh now. Has to be wriggling. Fuck
Has to
that.
be
Like,
wriggling. You're dead right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It has to be wriggling.
Come on, but
But
let's not fucking
like,
monsters here.
yeah. But then you look at there's so many times you see food in the show and you're like, oh my god, look at that. It's
Mm.
just always looks so nice. You're like, Jesus.
I mean,
Probably
Raptagino is the big one, isn't it? Like that's the like.
Rectigino's Klingon coffee, and I'm like, I want to know what that like. Is it a harsh version of coffee?
Oh, I can
Like, what
imagine.
is it? Like, it has to be mental for it's
Mm.
Klingon. Like, come on.
I imagine it just tastes like dirt. Like it's like a really musky, like like muddy flavor
Yeah,
almost.
well, either that or it has two penises. Like, it's one or the other.
It's no because like your Klingons are all double, so it's actually just naturally a double shot. Like it's a double shot of
So
coffee.
if I got a double Rectigino, that's a quadruple shot. Oh fuck me. Okay.
Yeah, your pancreas will shut down. Like yeah.
I don't know. I'd have that every Wednesday in work.
It
Get
would
me
go in
through the
it would go in
day.
handy. I think, yeah.
I need 50 cc's of Rectigino stat. So at this point, we're still very new with regards to the crew integration and the first
Mm,
season of Voyager. So this is only like the 10th episode of the first season. So we're still
yes.
trying to get used to these characters. So I don't know. Was Seska actually in any of the previous episodes?
She was in one or two previous. She was there was an episode where basically one of the Maquis, I think it could have been actually your man Carey actually, he was basically chatting shit for a while and basically like Chakotay had to basically give him a fucking slap around the head.
Mm.
And so yeah, I think just to check here, so Seska was in four episodes prior to this.
Oh, okay.
And then she was in
She wouldn't
about
have been a big part of the episode though. This is a very centric episode for her.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And then she was in about a couple of episodes in season two as well. So, which I was very surprised by because I only remember her as like basically once she joins the Kazon, like basically seen missing, don't hear from her again. But she actually
Yeah,
does pop in a good bit, to
yeah.
be fair. Yeah.
She is a lot in this season and in the next season.
Yes.
Mm. Like even when you look at Star Trek, even the cutlery,
Mm,
like the cups and the like that spoon is like
yeah.
that's specifically like for like look at that. It's like it's bigger one side than it's the other side. I'm like, so
Yeah.
that one's specific for a right-handed person. There's obviously ones for left-handed people. I love that. I love that it's different. I also love the fact that, you've got those famous Captain Picard cups and you can buy
Yes.
them now. Like I'm like, I really want one of
I
those.
have bought one of them for as a Christmas present for a friend, and he
There you
loves it.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. I just think it's great. Like I think I love that stuff.
But see, this is always the kind of weird, like, kind of dichotomy of like of science fiction stuff. Science fiction stuff is inspired by like, as in like, if you have a notion of like, okay, you're in a science fiction environment, you can reinvent the spoon. It was
Mm.
like, oh, how would I do a spoon again? And then like you can just make something up in plastic, and because it's on film, it looks legitimate, it looks like metal.
Yeah,
And then like 5 to 10 years later, someone's inspired by seeing what it is there, and then does it themselves. Like any future fucking movie or TV show has that power to just inspire that. Again, like Star Trek has many kind of examples, but Star Wars is the same.
mm.
Um, I'd throw in Blade Runner there as well, for
Yeah,
instance. But Blade Runner is more like the aesthetic than anything else. Where
mm.
like Blade Runner, like in the 80s, was kind of laughed at for having this notion of making Los Angeles look a bit like Hong Kong
Yeah.
or Singapore with how densely populated it is and having this kind of sushi bars and all this other stuff there. That was laughed at as like, what, you're saying like Chinatown's going to be the big part of Los Angeles? Yeah, get real. It's like, are you sure about that? Because most
Now
population
look at
centers
it.
are like that now.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, um, and or like the holographic advertisements, and you look at what like Times Square is now, or Tokyo. You know, it's the same thing.
Mm. Oh,
Thank you, Council Troy. I mean, Neelix. I didn't know he was a mind reader as well. I don't think it says often like enough, but like I really do love the bridge set for Voyager.
yeah.
Like it's a lovely little midway point between the Deep Space Nine bridge or command center, if you prefer, and the Enterprise set. It is
Mm.
like we don't have the space for a proper bridge on this like new class of ship, and that's absolutely fair. You know, the Galaxy ship is a bit of a fucking is a bit luxurious, to be honest. We need something a bit more like, belt and braces for the latest batch of ships, and that's all kind of it. But it's also well like we've also seen other ships where like they don't have, even if they're a Galaxy class or Constitution class, they don't have like the most like indulgent of bridges.
Mm.
You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know, they have to make do with what they have. You know
Oh dear.
And just as the camera pans a little bit to the left, Han Solo is stuck in there. Who could turn these Kazon into poor plastic dolls? We've got a single male Kazon alive on the bridge. Transported directly to sick bay. Energizing. Appearance of explosion emanating from this console. Something with a line vent. Structural pattern does not conform to the rest of the bridge. That is something else strange about it. The residue has a 0.41% trace of a neosoian composite. And I don't know anyone who uses neosoian technology. Neither do we. It's the first we've heard of it. He's actually becoming plastic as we speak.
Talk about recycling.
So this is how they made the Silver Surfer. Ah, it's cool. I love that Janeway is absolutely fuming at
Yeah.
this. It's like they did it outside of the pattern. The shits. The actual shits.
Like you look at Voyager, right?
Mm,
And you realize that Kate Mulgrew wasn't the first choice for Janeway.
I know.
And
It's
how bad would it have been had she not been
mm,
the captain? Because she's fantastic, absolutely fantastic as Captain Janeway. Like
100% agree. Like it's
unbelievably good.
like especially when you do see like the few little scenes that Genevieve Bujold did do as Janeway, just not the, like fabulous actor in her own right and great in certain roles, but just not as Janeway.
Not for
Just
Star Trek, no.
no.
There are people who get it and there are people who don't. It
Yep.
really is as simple as that. And no, you don't have to be a fan just to be good in Star Trek, but it
Mm.
certainly helps.
It helps. I think it's also like some people's just skill set suit Star
Mm.
Trek as well to be able to kind of take a scene and recognize the energy in it, or recognize the episode. Look, bear in mind, like these guys are doing such complicated shooting schedules. Like they're doing multiple episodes at one time, so you have to try and match the energy to the scene and not get yourself mixed up with the episode you're doing next or the
Yeah.
one before, and waiting for someone else to come up on stage and stuff like that.
And how
Um,
difficult that is doing 16-hour days over 5, 6 days a week, having one
yeah,
day off. You're like,
exactly. Yeah.
that's burnout straight away.
It's a reason why they rely a lot on people with a Shakespearean background because it's not necessarily the fact that like Star Trek is not Shakespearean by any stretch of the imagination. Like this isn't fucking Othello we're watching here. But what it is, you need a skill set that's akin to being up on stage and either rolling with the punches or having to retain so much information about like what you're doing. Because again, on a like a theater ground like that, you could be doing King Lear one night and the Tempest the next, and you have to have all this in your head. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's a skill in its own right. But this is also still the part of that kind of like the little bit of friction between the Maquis and the Starfleet
Mm.
groups.
Mm.
Oh. Whenever I see like kind of scenes where Chakotay is with someone like that, and I get that he's quite a stoic and pragmatic character, I just feel like the hand they gave Robert Beltran with the character was just such a small one,
Yeah.
and it really just kind of it just is so crystallized when you see him, even in the first season when like it should be the character should be at its like freshest and sharpest. It just wasn't there, unfortunately.
No.
And I think it's a shame because like he's out there like he's in really good company with first officers. Like he's trying to follow up the likes of Riker and Spock, and I suppose like first officer would be Kira on Deep Space Nine. Really strong, emotive characters, and you have someone who's just the absence of that. And that's not fair on Beltran either. But I think after a while it was very kind of like, he wasn't putting much energy in it himself in the end, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, it was called Cardass. I mean, Bajoran measles. Let's all huddle together in the living room. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why did he have to be so close?
We've interrupted something. Okay, we cut to them too early. I do. It is something I don't think we've actually pointed it out that much on the show, but I might as well do it here. Like, it's one thing when I was watching this when I was younger, and I just loved like the kind of this one thing. It's just not mentioned. It's the fact that like you have people just like backup crew members to man a station while someone's off, and
Yeah.
then once like the main character's back, they just fuck off back to the set and back to whatever they were doing. It's like I love the idea that in a sense where like your man is like like, oh, I'm buzzing, I'm not tactical again. Oh, two of us back off. Fuck here, take it back. It's like you might only cover in a toilet break or something, but like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
It's gas.
Emote, Chakotay. Emote. You can do it. I believe in you.
And he didn't do it.
It's like Calculon.
Maybe should have made him like a Vulcan or something.
Honest to God, like I think I know I've said this before when he's been on, but like I hate the conceit that a lot of people do with Native American characters is that they have to be stoic and pragmatic for some reason. Why can't you just have one with fucking like be emotive? Like they have emotions. Like the Native
Mm.
Americans are not Vulcans. They can show emotion. I'll be honest with you, Captain. I always wanted to be the chief petty officer anyway. Don't ask me why, right? I think Carrie's actually meant to be an Irish character as well. Just I'm trying to remember now. I mean, I did accept that one friend request on MySpace, but no, it was definitely no, apart from that, it was fine.
MySpace.
MySpace is huge in the Delta Quadrant, Jerry. Like it's still going strong. Hmm. I believe I've said too much. I mean, that'll be a lesson to you folks. Always lock your computers in the job. GDPR violations are a real thing, especially in space.
Not restrict me to quarters.
Oh, you're gonna take me off duty. Oh no, how terrible. I suppose I'll go read a book or something. What a shame.
Oh,
And that's where the Chakotay anti-acting works. It's just being that deadpan, the but
yeah. Ah, Mash Color for the first
yes,
time. Very good.
it is. Yeah, this is his debut. In fairness, like I said, one thing the Kazon was missing was the actual central kind of like villain. Cullen
Yeah,
is the closest.
yeah.
Um, but then yeah, that's also a quirk of like having the Kazon be a kind of a tribal race
Mm,
where you have all these different factions, which I really like. The
yeah.
premise is great. It's a great premise for essentially it's like what happened if the Klingons didn't have the ruling house,
Mm,
essentially. Um, I do love Kazon ships as well. To be fair,
mm,
there's something very kind of like bird-like about it. You
mm.
know. You're welcome, by the way.
Mm.
We're just gonna ignore you now and stand
Mm.
here stoically. I would love to.
Mm. That's always been his kind of farewell to Janeway. He's
Yeah.
always done something like that.
Mm. It's a real kind of polite fuck you kind of like thing. It's like, what a shithouse. Dun, 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 dun. Now that is
Now,
a
wouldn't have been fun for Seska to be the long lost daughter of that legate?
oh, wouldn't that be great? I'd love that. I'll have to when we're doing our trivia, I'll have to dig into Memory Beta to see if there's anything like that. Because maybe like novellas like that, I love
No, it's not.
dig
It's
find
it
those
never
things.
happened.
Yeah,
Just as Jonathan Frakes said, it never happened.
it's false. It's a total fabrication. Also, Chakotay, you have been,
A
you
bollocks.
know, you know. So no, definitely not.
You've been,
You know, having soup together, uh-huh, leading the resistance, you know.
I always this is the strange thing I find about Voyager's bridge
Yeah.
is that the first officer and captain's chairs are equal, and they
Mm.
always have been. Whereas every single other starship has always had the captain in prominence. And I'm like, did they do that because May's a woman?
It's a fair question. I would hope not.
I
Like,
hope not.
like I think even like if you're okay from like if I'm separating the TV producer side of it, like if they were making the bridge, would they have made the bridge being knowing that they were pursuing a female lead, or did they kind of like like I know I think it was probably part of the mission statement they wanted a woman to lead the show anyway, but I don't know if whether the set designers were thinking
Hmm.
those two steps ahead, or did they just want something that's a very functional ship, you know?
Yeah.
Um, because certainly like when we've seen like other
Hmm.
finally some good news. Um, but I think certainly when they're doing like kind of the kibosh kind of or the kitbash like kind of like bridges of like constitutions, or you know actually I'm thinking of is the fucking Enterprise C and the Ambassador class
Hmm.
where the captain's ship is central, but it's so small and it is kind of enclosed around it, in a way. Whereas like Voyager was never intended to be a kind of like a ship of the line. It is
Hmm.
just another kind of like, vessel in a sense. It's a concept, to be fair. It's the newest ship off of the block.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Come on, Chakotay. There must be some emotion in there.
Here we go.
I do know that Seska is really kind of playing this in hard mode. Like she's trying to seduce the most like wooden person on the ship. Like you would be better off trying to seduce Tuvok, to be honest,
Yeah.
or the Doctor. I mean, I think it's more the case of like, what's wrong with you, Seska? You know?
Master manipulator.
Yeah. Oh. Cattell does sound like a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems legit. Oh, there's your
Oh,
master
that's it.
manipulation. My stage direction, whole chest, heart. And I should know, I am one.
Oh, dirt. Dirt. It's only one thing she wanted. It's disgusting.
You'd be ashamed of yourself. What sort of resistance is this, you fucking heathens? It's a good point, Seska. You know, Seska, I think if you fluffed your hair more at Chakotay, you might have got somewhere.
Yeah.
Ooh, a little bit
Sneaky,
of a,
sneaky Tuvok.
I
Sneaky,
tell you,
sneaky.
bit of fucking cloak and dagger, lads. I love it. Let's see who takes the honey trap. That's me, just walking normally across engineering.
Hmm.
I mean, that's also a fair point. Like literally, like Vulcans are like natural gamblers because they've just like imagine if can you imagine a Vulcan doing fantasy football? He'd be fucking brilliant.
True.
Mm. Oh my
Oh
god.
my God. I'm shook it.
I'm hiding as well. Oh, power stance. We know that Carey is not allowed anywhere else because he's reading a book. Oh, goody. I'm next. 9. Is I did it for the rock. I did
I
it
fuck. I
for the
knew that was
people.
coming.
Ah, she's got the Cardassian crazy eyes. It's Steph. Yeah, you can tell. Oh, you're not
Oh
capable of.
wow.
Also refreshing to see a Starfleet captain who knows when the day is lost and to get fucking moving.
Yeah.
Now, if this was Cisco, on the other hand, he would have nuked every Kazon in the fucking 5 mile radius.
Yeah.
Just be thankful you're not Mr. Editing, Cisco.
Hmm.
You have an idea how many people make impressions of me? Several. Again, conversation between him and a Vulcan. How is the Vulcan emoting more?
Yeah. Very strange.
Very strange. But anyway,
But there we
that is
go.
the episode. Okay. So, just a run-of-the-mill standard affair for Voyager, having one of their crew betrayed him and joined the villains of the piece. I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you, I actually misremembered this episode a little bit because I could have sworn that at the end, Seska reveals her Cardassian makeup at the end, but I think that must be for the next episode she's on that I'm thinking of. But
Yeah, the next one must be it must be where she starts to get a little bit of the ridges back, the thing at the top here, and
mm,
where they're famously called spoonheads because
yes,
from the mark in the top down to their nose it looks like a spoon. So
mm,
then the neck ridges as well. So she starts getting a little
mm,
bit of that as well. But it's yeah, it's interesting. It was an interesting episode. It's interesting to see that they took the concept from Deep Space Nine, where
mm,
Kira had been transformed into a Cardassian to make her believe that she was a Cardassian, and how there were sleeper agents in still around. So clearly, this
mm.
was one of those sleeper agents that was working on behalf of the Obsidian, not maybe Obsidian Order or the Topper Council or whoever it may be, or Central Command. More than likely, probably Central Command.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to see a story from DS9 go to Voyager, and I'm like, yeah, this is good. I like this. This is really good.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. As I said, it's a decent flip to it, and it's also a nice little bit of connective tissue between the two shows. Because again, they live in a shared universe, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that there are other people around that's done the same job. And again, it's also something that has been like I won't say it's been done to death is probably the wrong word to use, but it's a common enough thing that happens when you're when you have the technology to disguise yourself to that extent, that stuff is going to happen. Now, again, it's not a comparison, but my mind kind of thinks to the first season of Discovery where Ash Tyler turns out to have been a Klingon. That's a particularly egregious form of that sort of storyline where okay, if that was the case, and again, this is to you, Alex Kurtzman, who clearly doesn't fucking know anything, they would have to remove all of his organs and put them back in again and crush him and rebuild it. Do you know what? Forget about it. It doesn't actually matter. It would be Hero fucking Night because that is in particularly is a stupid plot twist. Just because it happened with one scrawny guy in in an original series episode does not mean it's going to happen again. There's been lore built since.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, moving on. So, So moving on then. So delightfully enough, Jerry, we do actually have a ship to talk about in our trivia. So
Yes.
again, if anyone's not familiar, we have two bits of trivia, two segments of trivia, I should say. One where whenever we see brand new ships, we tend to fawn over them and put them in a kind of a proverbial kind of like league table of sorts. And basically see if it is one of our preferred ones or one that we would rather not have at all. And then we have our Star Trek alumni, which we'll be talking about shortly, and seeing if Jerry Soule recognizes them from any other works in the within the galaxy. But we'll start off with the special ship, and it is shockingly enough the Kazon Raider. Unfortunately, it doesn't have, to my knowledge, certainly a name to it, like the Derrid X class or anything like that. They're just known as Raiders, and they also are like cruisers, Raider, whatever you want to call them, really. But they all kind of have a very kind of like traditional, like conventional shape to them in a sense, where it's almost like they have the kind of main hull here and then a kind of central plinth downwards. Obviously, I'll have a visual aid for this, so there's no point kind of like going too far into it. Kind of a central plinth down that seems to be the kind of weapons array, and then you have kind of like dorsal fins on both sides. So it's kind of like on kind of closer inspection, it's kind of like almost like a porpoise, almost like kind of some sort of like sea life, which obviously is not what the Kazon are based on, going by the hair, but certainly like there's a lot of like kind of impressive detail to it. Again, that's also by virtue of the fact of like the little lift in technology for Voyager, and the kind of transition to CGI and stuff. So yeah, it's very very much armed to the gills in terms of like it's got its shields, it's got its stealth. Well, not quite cloaking device, but it's kind of got something similar, as it were. I think it's called a masking circuitry or something like that. Where basically just kind of like scatters the light around it, and then obviously it has like its big thrusters and engines at the back of the machine as well. So yeah, basically they all kind of follow the same kind of shape, and they're all just different shapes and sizes. And obviously, so there's some kind of like minor details depending on which clan they're coming from as well. So yeah, they're all kind of overall the same. Certainly eye catching, it has to be said. Certainly, especially in the first episode of the show, really does actually make you kind of go, that's a nice looking ship. How do you like the Kazon ships, Jerry?
I kind of have this outlook that they're very similar in a way. I think it's more so the color, but very similar in a way to Cardassian ships, and that might be why Seska is kind of drawn to them. That they remind her of Cardassians. The ships are very very similar. Some of the design is similar. The color certainly is very 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 Cardassian-esque. I do like them though. They were something that was different, but kind of familiar in a way as well. As I said, kind of the Cardassian connection to them. But they were certainly different to most other things that we'd seen in Deep Space Nine or Voyager or Next Generation before. You kind of always had this atypical kind of design with most ships, especially in Star Trek. So this was something a little bit different. As you said, it's kind of almost porpoise-like.
Yeah.
I've just brought up because I wanted to know how many actual different types of Kazon ships there were, and according to the internet, there was three. So there was the fighter, the raider, and the warship. So what we saw there was two raiders. So the two raiders aren't very big. They're smaller than Voyager, whereas the warship is absolutely ginormous. It's huge.
I think we see the warship in the first episode. I think
you see the warship in the first episode, and then there's a couple of other episodes where you see them as well. Now they're not. You don't see it very often. But the big one, the warship, is also considered a carrier as well, so we'll probably have fighters on it as well. So yeah, the design is different. It's obviously a bigger version of the fighter and the raider, but it doesn't kind of have those kind of side bits that the raider has. But it's certainly keeping with the aesthetic with the design. I do like them because when it came to Voyager in the very first season, it was nice to have something new and different. Obviously, we're in a completely different part of the galaxy here, so it needs to be different. No, I really really like them. In terms of how I would rank it, though, I'm not sure. What are the rankings again that we've got?
Okay, so we do it in the actual ranks. So we start off with ensign, And then we have lieutenant, commander, captain, and admiral. So if you want an example of what's in each class at the moment, so the ensign ones obviously is our lowest rank, and that's your kind of, we have the Oberth class in that. So should be the level of ship we're talking about there.
Yeah.
The lieutenant class would be something like the Romulan bird of prey from the original series. Then you have the captain commander class, which is relatively popular. That's where the likes of the Ferengi Marauder is at the moment. Appropriate enough, the captain class has the likes of Voyager in it, and then the admiral class is our Klingon bird of prey, the D7, the Defiant, and Enterprise D. So it's that's an elite level of ship there. So
Okay, well, if I was to rank it, I'd probably go with Commander.
yeah, I think that was kind of where I was looking at myself. Certainly it's eye catching enough without necessarily being the best in show for like the Delta Quadrant. I haven't watched Voyager in quite a while, so perhaps I'm out of date with this. But I remember the Herodian class, Herodian ships really standing out as looking like, oh fuck, they look like they pack a punch, like they look like
Oh,
real
absolutely.
yeah.
They were all kind of very similar in size, apart from one or two episodes where they were bigger versions.
Mm,
But the they were really really tough looking ships. I kind of, if you were to compare it to something newer, like you look at the Shrike from Picard,
yeah.
that is menacing,
Hmm.
absolutely menacing. So when you see the Herosian ships, you're like, okay, okay, and they do really pack a punch. Like they can shred the shields on Voyager, no problem. So,
Which
um,
again makes sense.
yeah,
They are intended to be warships. Like there's no other recourse for that. You know what I mean? Like it's
that's
doing
all
its job.
Voyager ever seemed to run into was warships. They didn't
Yeah.
really run into many other things other than warships. So.
It very much showed that like the Delta Quadrant was the equivalent of was the space Starship equivalent of damn nature, you scary. Essentially. That's all it really was.
Basic. Well, that's where the Borg are from. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it kind of makes sense that the whole quadrant would be as chaotic as them.
Mm. They are a product of their environment, as they say. So yes, the Kazon ship rests very comfortably in the commander class. Very much good company with the likes of the Cerritos, the original Enterprise, and Deep Space Nine, amongst many others. You actually should see the whole class up on screen there, including all of our other picks over the many episodes of this show. So, next up then is our next other trivia segment, the Guests Among the Stars. And only three to speak of today, Jerry. We are in relatively good company. These are characters we see quite a bit in Star Trek Voyager, so it's actually quite good that we get to flesh them out a little bit here. But I'll start off with one Josh Clark. Um, so I'm going to quiz you on all three of these actors to see have you seen them before in Star Trek. So we'll start with Josh Clark. He appears as Joe Carey
Yeah,
in this episode. Do you think he's been in Star Trek before? And if so, how many times?
Harry. I don't think so, but I'm not. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it might actually shock you here, Jerry, that he has actually been in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Um,
Okay.
So he was one of the kind of like O'Brien previous I suppose the nameless tactical officers in the same way that O'Brien was once the
Well,
nameless con officer. Yeah, he was actually in the episode Justice from the first season. That's the one where Wesley Crusher nearly gets a death sentence for walking on some flowers.
yeah.
So when everyone
I certainly don't remember him from it, but okay.
we actually see like he looks very different because obviously like a lot of time has passed like from 1987 to Voyager, like there's like a 10-15 year difference, and I'm not going to be too like kind of like crass with it in a sense, but there's actually significant change in how he looks over the years. But yeah, so Josh Clark has been technically in Star Trek twice. He didn't have a name in that episode. He was just the Worf's basically deputy, or not Tasha's deputy indeed for that episode. And yes, he had much big bushier, redder hair that time. So like he's definitely fucking Irish anyway in that show. Um, but yes, yeah, it really, realistically speaking, Yeah, Star Trek Voyager is kind of his most prominent role, would you believe? He's very much a one and done in terms of a lot of like dramas and shows across the years. So like he is indeed one of those actors that appears in say um the likes of 24, Criminal Minds, Heroes, One and Done, Law and Orders, stuff like that. And The Mentalist. I think one of the ones he's well known for is coming in Cheers. And he was
Okay.
also in a Apple commercial as well. Not one of those I'm an Apple, I'm a Mac ones. It's the ones like in between them. And he was also in LA Law. So yeah, very much like a one and done type of actor. But his main role was as Joe Carey from Star Trek Voyager. Carey's an interesting one actually, because he's like one of those like kind of like a reoccurring character, but not recurring enough to be kind of like given an episode. Like he's kind of like if O'Brien kind of passed the probation to be an interesting character, Carey did not. If that's kind of the best way to
Yeah.
describe it. Um, he does get killed off in the end.
Yeah, true.
I think he what happened to him? He got shot by an antimatter weapon, didn't he? In
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, we hadn't actually
Yeah.
seen him in a couple of seasons, and they
Hmm.
decided to bring him back just to kill him off. I mean,
Which is hilarious.
yeah.
Although fun fact, a few other interesting things about him is that he is actually down as a chief engineer on the USS Dauntless. Fun fact. That's for in Star Trek Prodigy. Um, so
But
the
he
on
but
on
he
the Dauntless, he was an
died.
assistant engineer, yeah, which is a bit
But
strange considering he would have been dead like a couple of years out beforehand. But yeah, but in Prodigy they have like Joseph Carey down as a as an chief engineer on the Dauntless. So, but no, maybe it is a very generic name. So like it's entirely possible that there is another one floating around. Um,
yeah,
but
okay.
yeah, in terms of the other things around, like he does come across in other various works. In the short story of Voyager, The Ones Left Behind, Joseph Carey is actually a Corkman. He is actually from Cove, funny enough.
Okay.
And he actually turned down a position on the Enterprise D, so he could go to the Voyager instead. And may I say, Joseph Carey, that was the wrong fucking answer.
Yes, it was.
Do not. Why would you turn down the flagship? I mean, even Reg Barkley didn't turn down the flagship, and he was a nervous fucking wreck. So that should tell you more about your life choices. Um, yeah, and there's a few like there's a hilarious like kind of like they all take different like I think he mentions his wife a lot in the show, and it's a kind of like a Mrs. Columbo kind of principle where like all the other short stories just take different guesses on what his wife actually is. One short story calls her Anne Carey, and the kids are called JJ and Patrick. And another short story has him marrying an Indian woman, and the sons are named Devraj and Michael. And then in another one, the wife's name is called Dinah. And it's just like it's all over the shop, like it's gas. And yeah, hilarious stuff. And even in some of the alternate timelines, Carey always gets killed off. It's
Mm.
hilarious. There's only one like alternate timeline where he becomes a chief engineer, for Voyager. As it's like, I mean, it's I suppose it's worst ways to go, but yeah, bit of a shame on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Josh Clark and Joe Carey. And next up then is Anthony DeLongis, and he is the actor behind the very extravagant prosthetics behind Culla, the Kazon we saw at the start of or in the middle of the episode there. I'll ask you this time, Jerry, have you seen Anthony DeLongis in Star Trek before?
I'm going to say no because I don't. I would be fairly good at either nosing a face or a voice, but I'm going to say no with this one.
And you would be correct.
Thanks be to
This is his
Jesus.
only appearance in Star Trek as this character Culla.
Okay.
However, Jerry, you have met this man before. And this is
Okay.
the reason why I set this up this way, because you're actually going to be surprised.
Go
If I
on.
told you he was in one of your favorite movies,
One one of my favorite movies.
from 1987, if I said his character was
Oh,
called,
wait. Hold on. Now, this is not me guessing. I feel like I know this.
okay,
Are we talking about Masters of the Universe,
We are.
and it is. It's the guy with the swords.
He's Blade. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. He's
but you
Blade from
wouldn't
Masters of the
know.
Universe.
You wouldn't know by just looking or listening to him because the voice is very different. But
Mm.
if you were to have a side by side comparison, to two pictures of both of them, you're like, fuck, it is him. I
Yep.
just right. It's because you said as soon as I said my favorite movie, I was like, oh wait, I think I know this. Yeah, Blade, which is so weird.
Mm.
It's so strange. Although saying that, when you look at Masters of the Universe, you do have a lot of people who've been on Star Trek in it.
Mm.
So the Masters of the Universe has a lot of Star Trek actors that have worked in it. And they've been in various different parts of Star Trek. So, another, obviously you've got Robert Duncan McNeil, who is one of the main characters, and that is Tom Paris.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
And Franklin Langella, who was Bajoran in Deep
mhm,
Space Nine as well.
yeah.
So yeah, he's again. I love when things run in circles like that. It's always very amusing. But yeah, he's made tons of appearances over the years. A very prolific career, still going. Would you believe he's still making appearances up as far as 2023 when he was in NCIS.
Oh.
Yeah, he's in fairness, like he like 2 episodes. Like I wouldn't be like, oh,
Hmm.
he's slowed down a little bit in this time. But in terms of sci-fi, he's appeared in Babylon 5, and he's also been in a couple of movies as well. He was actually, and this actually ties in quite well because he's like the longest is not necessarily. I suppose he does have his acting career, but he's also a fight director as well,
Oh.
weapons trainer,
That
sword
makes
master.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense when you look at what he did in Masters of the Universe, because I
Mm.
know that he did all his own stunts in it, all his own fighting scenes in it. So that makes a lot
Yes.
of sense now. Yeah, actually, when you say it like that.
And even if you look at the movies he's actually been in, he's also in Roadhouse as Ketchum.
Oh, okay.
So again, it kind of like work. It's quite appropriate in a sense. Although one of his claim to fame actually is being part of the production of Batman Returns, where he taught Michelle Pfeiffer how to use the whip.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
mad. I love hearing stuff like that. I love like
hmm.
stuff that you
Um,
would never just know.
Yeah, again, like this is the thing about like this is what's so great about like these kind of like going drilling down into some of these characters is that the actual actors behind them sometimes are more interesting than the characters.
Yeah.
Like, these people have lived like fucking fully wonderful lives, and they come off like 3 episodes and they killed off. Like it's fucking ridiculous. But yeah, so a lot of it is he's made contributions on screen and off screen. I think it's fair to say. He's also a experienced horseman as well, and he's founded he founded the Australian Light Horsemen as well, which they do the kind of like combat routines with like sabers and bullwhips and
Jeez.
stuff like that. So yeah, this
God, he
guy
gets around, doesn't he? My God.
he's done a fucking lot, like to his credit, and again, still going. Would you believe? Yeah, that's Anthony DeLongis. Next up then is of course our main event, and that is Martha Hackett as Seska. So Jerry, I'll ask you the same question. How many times has Martha Hackett appeared in Star Trek,
Including Seska?
including as Seska?
I know she has. I know she has. I'm going to say 3 in total.
I will give you 3, Jerry, because this is it's a bit of a trick question, because technically Seska appears later on in Voyager as a hologram in Worst Case Scenario. That's the one where Tom Paris has done his novel.
Okay.
So you will remember her. She is in Deep Space Nine.
Trying to think what though. Give me a season. What season?
I think this was season 3. Let me just check. She was in a two-parter call. Yes, the opening of season 3, which was The Search.
Oh, she was the Romulan.
She was the Romulan.
Yes,
She was Tarul.
I knew it.
Yes.
I knew she was in it. I knew she was in
Yeah.
it.
Once you see her face, it's like that's Seska. It's like she's been hiding in plain sight the whole time.
Yeah. She was the one who installed the cloaking device on the Defiant.
Yes, and I think she
And
gets
she's
killed
like,
off.
I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to. No, she wasn't killed off. No, it
Oh, she was
during
one of those- Yes. Sorry.
during the kind of mind thing that they were under, she gets
Mm.
killed in that point, but then she is revived because she's part of the program.
Mm.
So when Odo finds them, he puts his hand into the lock, and it's only for a changeling, and they go in, they find them. That's where she is. She's with the rest of them, but you don't see her again after that. Um,
Okay.
the kind of I kind of had it in my mind when years later watching Stargate, um, when you always had an Asgard on one of the Earth ships to
Yeah.
control the Asgard systems. I'm like, surely they should have done that with the Romulans and had a Romulan stationed on the Defiant at all times,
Yeah.
because the agreement with them that is that they would only ever use it in the Gamma Quadrant. And Jesus, the amount of times they must have used it in the Gamma Quadrant twice. And
Yeah.
it was 50 million times in the Alpha Quadrant. I'm like, yeah, you sneaky bastards, Federation. You're not supposed to have a cloak and a vice at all.
I
And
know. Yeah.
even during the war, even before the Romulans entered the war, they used it all the time. It's a clear violation of the treaty or the agreement with the Romulans. The Romulans could have entered the war against the Federation because of that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's to say, as you say, I think you make a very good point there in a sense where like it's kind of a missed opportunity to have some Romulan presence on Deep Space
Yeah.
Nine. Whether that's I don't know, would he kind of take thinking that the Romulans is more of a next generation thing? But then again, like it's all fucking the Alpha Quadrant
Well,
in the end.
what,
What difference does it make?
look, you only have to look like, okay, if you're thinking, oh, the Romulans is only a next generation thing, Deep Space Nine stole two characters from the Next Generation, Worf
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
O'Brien. I think it might have bridged the gap between the Federation and the Romulans had they had somebody stationed. Yeah, it doesn't have they don't have to be part of the crew. You could have
Mm.
somebody essentially like Garrick,
Yeah.
so somebody who's
Adversarial.
there
Yeah.
every couple of episodes, and um, they could this person could have had a bond with the crew. Somebody who
Mm.
was only there as Garrick was only in, God, must be only in maybe 20 episodes or so, something like that. He wasn't in
Yeah.
loads of episodes. Somebody who was there
Mm.
a lot of the time, and even you could have even had when the Federation was going to war with the Dominion, you could
Yeah.
have had the Romulan High Command order this person to go home, and they
Exactly. Having a
refused,
presence of it. Yeah.
and they refused. No, I want. I'm. These people are my family now, and I want to stay with them. And we could have even had them join Starfleet, first Romulan and Starfleet type of thing. Very much a missed opportunity, I think. And just
Yeah.
as we're
Fair
saying
point.
it now, fleshing it out, you're like, geez, that would have been a great idea. I
Yeah.
think I
Actually,
think
I
I
agree
think
with
that
you on
would have
that
been
one.
great.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, actually, that's a great shout. Absolutely. Again, never thought of it, but then again, it was when you kind of made the comparison with the Asgard. There, I was like, actually, fuck yeah, why didn't they do that? It
yeah,
just seemed like a missed opportunity.
yeah.
Now the interesting thing about Martha Hackett is, so again, I said technically she's been three characters. So again, I'm
It's
not
it,
actually.
it it really was only two.
Well, here's the thing, right? So I'm not counting the Seska hologram.
Oh,
Would you believe that Martha Hackett was actually in the Next Generation finale, All Good Things?
was she an
But
extra or something?
no, she was a deleted scene from All Good Things.
Oh,
Um, so what happened was she was a Torellian in All Good Things. So it was the deleted scene from the episode. She's a character Androna, you've seen on screen now just now, and basically she is introducing that little plot point about the Torellian plague. And part of the Devron system. So that was the actual like the reason to be for the Devron system was the Torellian plague, and everyone kind of going back and forth and moving from there. So the actual Torellian that communicates that to the Enterprise is actually Martha Hackett under prosthetics.
okay.
Um, and refreshing enough, I think is one of the first times you see a Torellian as well. So yeah, that kind of like she also kind of like will through dialogue would explain that there's a massive that the anomaly is in the Devron system, and she calls it the light, and it's wounded, and she thinks it's going to wound heal elderly people and stuff like that. And then Picard kind of talks her out of it, and basically she goes, no, I'm going to keep exploring going into the light, and basically she ends a message there. I was like, well, Torellians are dead, basically.
Yeah. Bye, Felicia.
Pretty much, yeah. Now, what's very interesting as well, actually, because it's only coming up here in this little bit of discourse, that Martha Hackett at the time had auditioned to be in Deep Space Nine as Jadzia Dax.
You know what? You could actually see that.
Yeah.
You could, and
It, it's got it.
I'd imagine she went far in the in the process because her and who plays Jadzia Dax? It's
Terry Farrell.
Terry Farrell. They
Mhm.
are quite similar.
Yeah.
They are
I
quite
think if
similar.
Dax
Yeah.
is more of a duplicious character, I think Martha Hackett would be better. But the way Terry Farrell plays Dax suited how she was eventually
Oh
written.
God, she was probably
Yeah.
one of the best. She was probably one of the best ones on
Mhm.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and it is very unfortunate. Like I did like the character of Esri, but
Yeah.
it's very unfortunate that they did what they did. She'd been playing the character for 6 years. She
Mhm.
wanted a break. She wanted to go off and do something different. So why not just let her?
Yeah.
Don't kill her off. Say that she had to go back to Trill or something happened or blah blah blah. And then she's gone for a little while, and then bring her back, and then
Mhm.
finish out the show with her. Um, it's okay. So bringing in Esri kind of brought along the
Mhm.
lines of, you know, changed Worf, and then Esri got with Bashir at the end, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But no, I just feel they should have just allowed her to do what she needed to do, and then when you're ready, come back and we'll finish out the show and go from there.
Exactly. I mean, like they made allowances for like Andrew Robertson and Louise Fletcher and Mark Alamo throughout the entire run. I don't see why they couldn't do it for Ezra for Jadzia Dax. Because again, even in the kind of the booking, if you like the booking of the show, you could have bumped up the likes of Nog to doing what Jadzia does, or find another character to do it. Like you could have repurposed anyone to do to be the other to be the new Jadzia while also having her as a kind of an auxiliary to the crew. As I said, I think there's a lot of other shit going on there, and it always seems to be with women. There's no fucking surprise there. Star Trek, the producers, is much like any other fucking TV show. They always give women a harder time than most. But that's
Well,
just the
look
way
what
it
happened.
is.
Look what happened to Gates McFadden. She got sacked at the first season and then brought back for the third season. So
Exactly.
it's
Like,
so strange. The men seem to
eh,
be. The men were always treated better on Star Trek than the women were, unfortunately.
yeah, it's a tale as old as time. It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah.
Now, again, I'm going to say technically, Martha Hackett has played a fourth character in Star Trek, but she has played it in a video game. Um, she has played. Have you ever played the interactive game Star Trek Klingon?
Yes.
Yes, she is one of the Klingons in that game. She is Qatar, and again, you can tell it's just Martha Hackett wearing a Klingon helmet. It's fucking hilarious. Like, it's like she can't. She's like who can I describe this like that like her in a sense like they played multiple like alien races and they just can't hide their mouth and face, kind of ways. It doesn't matter how much prosthetics you put on them, but it's just like this bit here or the Cardassian bit here or the Bajoran, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, they're all the same face.
Yeah.
um so she does obviously appear in that as one of the female Klingons, which again when you see her, it's so fucking blatant. Like it's tremendous. So yeah. So technically, if you wanted to broaden the whole thing, Martha Hackett has been four different characters in Star Trek. Even though two of them aren't technically official. In terms of the actress herself, Martha Hackett, again, still going. Although her most recent work was in 2020, so you could argue she has perhaps kind of parked her time for the moment. She is very much known as Seska for the majority of her works. A lot of one and dones in terms of all the other shows she's been in. She was in NCIS. She was also in Days of Our Lives, along with the Langtis we were mentioning earlier on. She has been a voice actor in a lot of video games in Star Trek. She was Safi Larson in Star Trek Bridge Commander, and she was Seska in Star Trek Armada 2. And of course, we mentioned that she was in Star Trek Klingon as well. She's done a couple of other appearances, various in different movies and TV shows and stuff like that. But yeah, realistically, you probably know her most as Seska from Star Trek Voyager. So there you go. She's also Shiona in I Love Vampires, if you were a fan of that particular show as well. But realistically, that's I think most of our reoccurring roles. And that's all of our characters. So I have to say, Jerry, you've done quite well there in that little trivia
Not,
round.
not too bad, I suppose. Not too
Yeah,
bad.
you've had worse days. Had worse days. Okay then. So next up then is now the review of the episode. We are going to give this episode a score based on some multiple characters. You're now seeing up on screen, and we're going to see how it ranks with all the other episodes we've watched as part of this series. And I don't know if you haven't been around, I know I tend to do a bit of one of these primers every now and then, but if you haven't been around for this show in the last few episodes, check the playlist and see what we've done before. It is a very competitive group, so let's see how State of Flux do in that company. As we always do, we'll start off with the plot. It overall, it's a really, maybe it's me, and again, perhaps Jerry, you might have some opinions on this. I think some Star Trek shows tend to have quite weak first seasons because they have to set up a lot of the groundwork and character bases and world building and stuff like this. So, and I think especially at the time of, like, you know, the grand old age of syndication, Star Trek knew it had a bit of the comfort of knowing that it was always going to get commissioned. The Next Generation was always safe enough. Well, probably not the first season was safe enough because, Jesus, they fucking tried their best to sabotage that. But from the second season onwards, they were comfortable enough in knowing that everything was fine. And the Next Generation was so successful that Deep Space Nine had a bit of breathing space to introduce characters, establish the world, and get some of the actual overall themes over in the first season. Whereas Voyager, I think, almost flipped the script a little bit. It kind of like smashed out of the gates immediately, and just every episode had to be another important plot point, and introducing a new race or introducing a new character, and just keep the pace going. It seemed to be like a really frantic first season.
Yeah.
Not helped by the writer's strike, because I think it was only a 15 episode run, compared to then the much more fleshed out season 2, which again continued the pace. Maybe it's just me, but it always felt like for me Voyager started off strong and finished weak, whereas a lot of Star Trek shows started off weak and finished strong. I don't know if you kind of feel the same way yourself, Jerry, on that one.
I would, to a certain extent. There were certain parts of Voyager like, Jesus, this is nice and new and fresh, and this is certainly one of those episodes. It's something that's new, something that is very well done, but almost they certainly took the idea from Deep Space Nine because of the sleeper Cardassian cell. But it was nice to use that. It was because, like, we finally see one now. So this wasn't just something that was made up. This was something that happened, and you're like, oh, okay, this is really cool. I like this a little bit. And certainly Voyager, for the first couple of seasons, it was really, really strong. Then when you get into that third season, you're like, yeah, we're even still building momentum here. Then they find the Borg corpse, and you're like, oh shit, oh here, okay. It took three and a half seasons, 4 seasons, but my God, we're there. And when that happened, it seemed to explode. We got 7 of 9, and Kes unfortunately left the show. We got 7 of 9. We got Borg. We got fantastic episodes like The Year of Hell, and then it, as you think, right, this is going through the stratosphere. This is going to be one of the best Star Trek shows of all time. It seemed to wane.
Yeah.
Not to say that there weren't great episodes, because there were fantastic episodes come along, but it just didn't seem to hold the kind of excitement of the previous seasons, you know, because they just seemed to get through everything, no problem. You know, oh yeah, we got through that. Oh, we got through that. We got, you know, there wasn't that much danger, I suppose. They'd always go up against the Borg, and I'm like, fleets of starships have been destroyed, but you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
You really get a scratch. I'm like, fuck off. You know, have a bit more danger to you. Have a bit more danger to it. But no, the thing is, was good. You know, I do love parts of the finale. You know, parts of the finale are really, really good. I just didn't like the ending. You know, the fact that they got back and then that's it. No, like, reunion, no, like, big thing, celebration, nothing. There was like, okay, and I look at it and go, well, maybe they were planning on doing a movie or something, and that obviously never materialized.
Which I think was the case, actually. They were hoping to do a larger movie, yeah.
But then you look at, obviously, the popularity of the characters is still stellar. Like, you've got Captain Janeway and Chakotay in Prodigy. You've got 7 of 9 in Picard. You're now going to have Starfleet Academy with the Doctor. The fact that I got to sit down and talk to him about that was fantastic. You've got all these characters from this particular show and how popular they are. Like, people are literally screaming about wanting Captain 7, who is now the captain of the Enterprise, to have her own show. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about that, whether it is going to happen. There's been merger stuff and there's been things going on, and like maybe we might get an announcement in the new year about a new show because I don't, as much as I'm going to look forward to Starfleet Academy is set in the same universe as um
Discovery. It's a continuation of
Discovery.
Discovery,
It's
really.
this,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's a continuation of that, and I just did not like that show.
yeah,
There were parts of it that were really good, but I think Alex Kurtzman decided to just go so far off of left field.
yeah,
Um, you know, they explained why the Klingons look different in the first season to the second season. I'm like, okay, I can totally understand wanting to do something different and want to do
mm,
something new. Totally understand that. You only have to look at the original series compared to Next Generation, how the Klingons and even the Romulans look different, and
mm,
even how humans and Vulcans and Andorians are different. I get it. The times have changed. That was set in the 50s, 60s. We're now in the 80s and 90s, and now on beyond, we're in the noughties and the 2020s now.
yeah,
But there was no need to go so far off of left field with some of the stuff he did. I
yeah,
understand he wanted to put his mark on things. That's fine. Put your mark on it, no problem at all. But at the end of the day, you're catering to Star Trek fans, and
mm,
they will fucking crucify you better than any other fans in the world if you get this
yeah,
wrong. And he got it wrong. So he immediately started to backtrack and stuff. So he gave the Klingons hair again. They didn't quite look like how they had in the first season. And then you look at, which I think for the Alex Kurtzman era in terms of stuff that he has had, really had his paws in. The Strange New Worlds has been fantastic,
yeah,
absolutely fantastic. The Klingons in Strange New Worlds are amazing. It's exactly what you expect the Klingons to look like. I was kind of hoping that we would see a bit more of the non-Klingon looking Klingons, how it
yeah,
looked in the original series, and maybe we will because, as we know from Enterprise, not every Klingon looked like that.
yeah,
There was
exactly.
only a certain. No, there was a couple of million that did, because they had been infected with the human virus, the
Mm,
augment
fake.
virus,
Yeah,
and that's why they look like that. There weren't any less Klingons; they just didn't have ridges anymore.
mm,
And I thought that's fun. It's different, and I'd like to see a little bit more of that, just to play around with it. Let's just play around with it a little bit, because you gave us the Enterprise and Strange New Worlds that
mm,
is very, very, very like the original, except it's made for the modern era. That's what we're looking for. We're not
yeah,
looking for you to change everything around. We're not looking for stuff like that. But just give us familiar but different. And like
mm,
that's what that was. The Klingons, you look at that. I think it's the first episode from the second series of
yeah,
Strange New Worlds. They're they're familiar, but again different.
yeah,
So it's like
exactly. Yeah,
that's
it's a
what we're
slight
like.
difference
It's
there, but
good.
yeah,
Like even you look at the Gorn. It is the Gorn, isn't it? That's the big
yes,
bad
yeah,
in it.
Bjorn, yeah,
The Gorn are different. There's like a familiarity about them. You're like, oh, these are cool, but they're so vicious. Like you look at that episode that
mm,
we watched that we reviewed. You're like, Jesus Christ, this is Alien in
yeah,
Star Trek. This is fantastic. There are certain things that Kurtzman has done, certain things that he hasn't. So I'm hoping that, with regards to Voyager, anyway, that we do get to see more of the crew, that we do get a show that has them in it. One other thing I want to say is that people tend to be unhappy about the fact that the former Titan A, now Enterprise, is the flagship.
mm,
And just because the name of the ship is Enterprise does not make it the flagship.
exactly.
It certainly doesn't, because there was, and this is what I find very interesting. I think this might be where they're going with this, was that during the time between the Enterprise B and the Enterprise C,
Yeah,
there was a ship that was a Shangri-La class, which is
mm,
effectively what the Titan A was modeled on, and then the now Enterprise G
yeah,
um, was the flagship. Between the
mm,
Enterprise B and C, that was the flagship of the Federation. It wasn't an Enterprise; it was a Shangri-La class, and that was the ship. That was the flagship until they get a new Enterprise. Though, okay, we have a new Enterprise now, and people are saying, well, we've only got, I think it's 150 years until we have to have the Enterprise J, H-I-J, the J, that big
yeah,
huge one from Star Trek Enterprise. I'm like, you have 150 years to go H-I-J, so three more. Okay.
mm.
And how many years has it been since we had the A?
The A went, Yeah, it
The
would be about
A was the 2280s.
yes,
The 2280s. So A to E was
80
about
years, 80
about
years.
80 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was A to E. And some of
Mm.
those ships lasted for a long time and some of them didn't.
Yes.
So if we're looking at G, H, I, J, so we've now got the G could last 20 years.
Mm.
The H, and then it could be a couple of years between the next one and whatever else. Just people just need to calm down. I
Yeah.
just feel that just calm down. Just
I think yeah, I think that's the thing as well. Was like I think it's because the Enterprise has always been the hero ship. Like we're
yeah,
used to it being the flagship, but the flagship is not necessarily. It's not static. Like the flagship of the Enterprise doesn't have to be, or the flagship of Starfleet doesn't have to be the Enterprise.
yeah,
It just happens the Enterprise is the most like ubiquitous name. Like it is
yeah,
the name of the first ship that launched, but so is the Phoenix. Like what's not to say that the USS Phoenix could not be a flagship. In the same way that like if you're looking at some of the all other apocrypha as well, the Voyager becomes a flagship at one point when it comes back from the Delta Quadrant. And again, you have all these other ones. Again, when you don't have an Enterprise available, you need to have something else. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And that is exactly it. Like you kind of nailed it on the head there. So yes, there is going to be different ones. Like for example, again in the Apocrypha, I'm just seeing here, for example, um, when the Enterprise D crashed on Viridian 3, before we had the Enterprise E, the Sovereign class was the newest class being made, and it was meant to be the Borg killer, as it were. Well, not one of them anyway, because you had different ones like the Saber class and the Titan and so forth. But the first Sovereign class was not called. There was a USS Sovereign, but the flagship was called the USS Atlas,
Yeah,
and that was captained by Admiral Bateson, who you'll remember more as Kelsey Grammer for those uninitiated. So that was the flagship before, until we had the Enterprise E.
yeah,
And who's to say that that ship was not like rechristened the Enterprise E?
yeah.
The kind of way that
Exactly.
logic would
You
always
just don't
apply when
know.
it suits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like even look at the logic of okay, so I have it up here. I decided to get up here. The Enterprise C. So that was destroyed at the Battle in Naranda Tree against the Romulans who were attacking the Klingon outpost in Naranda Tree. That was
Yes.
destroyed in 2344. Okay?
Mm.
So 2344 that was destroyed. It wasn't until 2363, which was 19
Hmm.
years later, that we got the Enterprise D. So you think there wasn't a flagship between 44 and 63? Of course there was.
Yeah. It's the
For
same as that.
diplomatic
There always has to
missions,
be a
for
captain
things
of
like
the team.
yeah,
Like there's always has to be
exactly.
something. Something has to be the flagship at all times. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's,
just
it's
because the Enterprise G is there doesn't necessarily make it the actual flagship. So
yeah.
now we've
Exactly.
gone
There will always be.
way off topic here.
Yeah, that was good though. I like it because like I said, it's like it's the same as anything else. Where like the flagship typically is usually the biggest ship, and again, it just so happens the Enterprise has always been the biggest ship in the fleet until this point now, where you have the Odyssey class, which like is, let's be fair, a very bespoke vessel. Like it was there to to transport Romulan refugees, and there's probably not a need for an Odyssey class now. But until
No,
the ship's downsize, a USS Odyssey will be the flagship. That's just
yeah.
typically how it goes. But
The,
yes,
the, the whole
back to
thing
the
about it,
plot.
though, well, I just want to make one more point there is
Sorry.
that when they were originally making the Galaxy class ships, they realized these ships are huge. We don't really need these huge ships. So
Yeah.
initially, they only made 6. So there was only
Mhm.
6 Galaxy class starships for a good 10 years. So when the Enterprise D was destroyed and the Dominion was coming in, the threat of the Borg was still there, they needed to build ships that were still of a size, but they didn't need to be quite as big as the Enterprise D of our
Yeah.
Galaxy class ship. So when you look at the side profile of both the Sovereign class and the Galaxy class, there's a huge difference in size. Galaxy class would have half the crew that a Galaxy class does, the Sovereign does, I should say. Yes, the Enterprise E may be longer, but it's a much smaller ship because
Yeah.
it doesn't have all the same type of science facilities and cargo bays and things like that, and crew quarters are a minimum. So it's very much Enterprise E is very much a warship. You look at the size comparison between the Enterprise D, the Enterprise E, and the Enterprise G, and the Enterprise G is only a little bit smaller than the Sovereign,
Yeah.
but in theory, as we haven't learned it all that much, is that the Enterprise G would be more technologically advanced than the Enterprise E.
Yeah.
They certainly have comparable weapons. They don't have quantum torpedoes, but no ships seem to have them in the future in 2401, 2402, so they don't seem to have them anymore. Maybe there was something happened with them and they can't use them anymore. Then you see that the reason the Enterprise F, that's, yeah, I'm trying to make sure I get it. The reason the F was being decommissioned was because of massive systems failures on it. So clearly these big ships weren't working for the Federation.
Yeah.
Yes, they had a lot of them, because when you see from the fleet action at Starbase 1, there was a lot of the Odyssey class ships knocking the absolute shite out of Starbase. But clearly, just because it's bigger doesn't mean better. Like, we had a couple of ships that were comparable in size to an Enterprise D or to Galaxy class, which was the Ross class. That's the natural progression for the Galaxy class.
Yes.
But again, there probably wouldn't have been many of those. When you look at the toughest, fastest ship in the fleet, which we saw in the first season of Picard, they were smaller ships.
Yes.
Again, smaller ships that they would have been comparable in size to. They would have been smaller than Enterprise E, but yet they were the toughest, most powerful starship ever built by the Federation. Something similar is what Riker said when he had that little speech, and they were smaller. So I was like, just because it's bigger. I'm sorry. What's one of the toughest ships in all of Starfleet? The Defiant.
Defiant, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. It's not even half the size of the saucer section of a Galaxy class, and it would probably knock. It probably knocked the crap out of a Galaxy class.
Yeah.
So, just because it's bigger doesn't mean it's better. So there we go. Sorry, my 2 cents. Let's get back on topic. I'm sorry.
No, I'd like to see this. This is what happens. This is why when it takes a couple of months for us to do recordings, like, Jerry kind of like, has like a little, like, what grinds my gears gland. As it's like all the discourse he hears over the months is like, you see, you fucking woke arseholes, and then just go from there, and then he feels better. Then it's this will make.
I do.
Yeah, it makes him feel better. It's counselling, really.
Yeah, counselor Jonathan.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, Captain, I'm sensing a grievance. It's like, yes, no shit, Sherlock. Anyway, so yes, back to the plot, Jerry. How did this little Federation saboteur / spy turned Cardassian plot work for you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You see, as I said earlier on, because this is taken directly from Deep Space Nine, and this was taken directly from Deep Space Nine, from the second season, I believe, second or third season, I believe, of Deep Space Nine. That the plot was taken. Now, I don't mean they've taken the plot of another episode and put it into this one. They've taken the idea from a particular plot in one of these Deep Space Nine episodes and gone, that's going to work here.
Yeah,
that's going to work here. So you had Ariana, who was the Cardassian who was technically in hiding on Bajor during the occupation, and it was Major Kira was led to believe that she was actually Ariana. But she wasn't. Obviously, it was found out that this was a plot by the Obsidian Order to gain control of Kira. And when you look at that, I'm like, that's a great idea. Will we ever see Ariana then? But then you find there's another person who's been medically altered to look like a Bajoran. She's actually Cardassian. I'm like, oh, such a great idea, such a cool plot. Would make a good villain. She certainly did. She did everything in her power to either steal the technology of Voyager or steal Voyager itself. Eventually it worked. And who was it that stopped her? It was a fellow Maquis member.
So somewhat appropriate for, yeah.
It was very, very appropriate. So yes, I think the plot of this, just to kind of give us that extra villain that we needed, it was kind of you look at the Next Generation, and you look at the kind of on-off villains that you see in there, and Tomalak really comes to mind to me. Yes, is that he was somebody who was always around, but you didn't see him all the time, but he was always around. Yes. And I love the fact that he was in the start of the using the first season, and he was brought back. We didn't see him for a few seasons, then he was brought back for the finale in Strange New World. All good things. Absolutely love that. I think that's brilliant. So to have someone like that who is kind of looming up for 2.5 seasons, and that's what she was. She was a villain for her 2.5 seasons. That was brilliant. Sorry, but that's great. And what a good actress, what a good character and good
Yeah.
actress to portray it. Absolutely brilliant. In terms of the plot, this was a great way to introduce that. Obviously, we, as you said, we'd seen the character a couple of episodes beforehand. Um, just a generic Bajoran Maquis
Mm.
turned Starfleet officer.
Yeah.
Nothing special, nothing, and then this made her special. I'm like, yeah, that was good. I don't know whether I'd go as high as a 10, but I go maybe an 8 to a 9.
I was thinking eight myself personally.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got if yeah, we can go eight by five. Eight by
I'd go
five.
with 8. Yeah, I'd go with
Okay,
8.
eight, fair enough. Yeah, yeah. I think like it's one of those ones where like I said, they really front loaded the first season, with like really really good stories. I think the reason I'm kind of taking points off it in a sense is that I think it's a little bit too early to be playing spies in a sense. I'm kind of comparing it with how Deep Space Nine, delivered what happened with Eddington, for example,
Yeah.
and how his kind of his betrayal really lands because they had a full season to show off Michael Eddington being loyal to the cause and like being like really befriending Cisco from what like not only befriending Cisco but also kind of getting past the whole adversarial relationship with Odo and stuff like that and
Mhm.
really winning a lot of crucial people over with what he was doing. And then when he does defect to the Maquis, it feels like a fucking gut punch. It's like you look, see you fuck, you
Yeah.
feel like there's a bit of vitriol there. Whereas with
Oh,
Seska,
definitely. Yeah.
it was very much a case of like Seska, we hardly knew ye. But if you were to tell me now a few episodes later when you like really starts to manipulate and gaslight Chakotay, especially with the whole with the baby and everything else in between, phenomenal stuff. Like absolutely fine, tremendous. And again, if you ever end up doing the basics two-parter, we'll be fawning over that as well. But yes, good plot, solid plot. I'd say the only point I'll give to it is that it's a bit too early for
Yeah.
this sort of thing. But that's just me. If this was season two and you had like a full season to give Seska a lot more kind of to actually be Seska's be Chakotay's partner and then betray him. Oh fucking hell! Imagine that.
Yeah. No,
So
I would agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so next up then is the setting, and yeah, we had a bit of outdoor bits and pieces. We saw a nice bit of Orange County, which was nice. We saw a bit of the Kazon interior, which I was a little bit disappointed in personally. They kind of kept it very kind of short, short and sweet in a sense.
Yeah.
And typically when they do kind of sets with an alien race that they're trying to get across, they will show you a lot.
Mm.
Like for instance, with a Klingon ship, I'm thinking of the episode where Riker goes on the kind of the talent exchange program, and they show you the interior. Now, obviously, we know what the Klingon ships look like anyway from the
Yeah.
movies, but it just continues on and gives you more of the same. It shows you what the mess hall is like, what the beds are like, and all sort of stuff when they are just literally sleeping on fucking shelves. That stuff is good. The Romulan ships, how they're all there's the kind of this command center is completely redesigned, reprofiled, and is very reminiscent to the original series. But again, they just
Mm.
based it off the one episode and just took the design from there. It was like that's fucking phenomenal stuff. Or even when we had the Ferengi bridge as well, once upon a time, and that's all very kind of centralized as well. And I
Yeah.
love there's like a little design motif with the Ferengi that looked a bit like the trading floor. It was all very central. Everyone's kind of bumbling around each other. It's like that's fucking great. I love that. That's so subtle and it's really really well done.
Yeah.
And they didn't never did that with the Kazon, or at least they certainly didn't do it until the second season, where it's almost like they didn't know how to design Kazon ships, because they're trying to do the kind of the aesthetic of where they're still in the kind of some of them are still kind of wearing their kind of furs and leather armors to the extent, but they also have spaceships. So how do we get that kind of that happy balance between them having the technology, or at least a way of kind of cobbling up together a spaceship with some sort of warp power, or at least something along those lines, but also getting across that they are still a little bit savage in certain areas, a little bit underdeveloped in these departments, let's say, as a race. So I can kind of see they kind of perhaps box themselves into a bit of a hole there to a certain degree. And yeah, I think they kind of let themselves down a little bit on the setting here. It was a good chance to show the Kazons off as a race, and I don't think they took it. And that's just me personally on that one. Overall, the setting itself was fairly standard affair, I thought. So I was thinking a 6 to a 7. Yourself, what do you think yourself, Jerry?
I would agree with you there. Only thing that had gone from it was that lovely California set.
Yeah,
That's the only thing for me. I have to echo what you said when it came to the Kazon ship. It's very generic.
yeah.
It was nothing special about it. It's like, right, what have we got in storage there? Yeah, give us that panel there. Yeah, give us that bit there. Nothing very specifically Kazon
Mm.
about it. Nothing at all. So that was the disappointing part. So yeah, I'd probably go with a six. I probably would have went lower, but you said 6 to 7, so I'll go with a six.
Yeah, like I think like it's I think like first impressions matter when it comes to races, and I think this is perhaps we might even talk about it more so when we get into other departments. But I feel like the Kazon didn't land because I don't think enough of an impression was made to make them look impressive. What I'm thinking of, like the Herosian came to mind more so. It was like Herosian was like a second attempt at the Kazon, and where like when you see a Herosian ship, it looks just completely, it's metallic. There's no
Yeah,
comfort, there's nothing. It's like a place of work. It's like or like it's almost like a slaughterhouse in some places. It's just like it's so metallic, it's so slate, there's no personality or uniqueness whatsoever, and that in of itself tells you about the race that you're talking about here, you know.
yeah.
I can't remember the name of the race that has the skin phage, where they're like stealing the organs off each other, of other races.
Vidians, the
The
Vidians.
Vidians, thank you. But that's another one. That looks so that's a horror. That they're dark and gloomy because they don't want to see them. There's real fucking Phantom of the Opera shit going on here, where like don't look at my face. But also Warp One. It's like at the very least, like you got some sort of personality coming across in the ship you're doing. With the Kazon, there was none of that,
Yeah,
and that was a real missed opportunity. Especially when you're trying to build up these, like, villains of the week, as it were. Okay, so next up then is writing, and I have a lot of positives in this episode. I think this is an
yeah,
episode where the writing has to be strong inherently for this to work. You're trying to flesh out the plot, and I think it really did deliver the plot at the right places, right time. Um, so I think, like I say, this is one of the things where like it's I would describe this as an episode that kind of writes itself to a certain degree. Like if from you're starting out with point A where the crew are on a routine mission and they get ambushed by Kazon, and you end it with basically one of the crew being basically being defecting to the Kazon or being a spy. Everything kind of like the story beats kind of like fall into place for you a little bit. Um, Picking someone like Seska is quite good because you've already established that she's trying to kind of manipulate Chakotay to a certain degree. They've got a past history and all this sort of stuff. So the right person to turn, right person to defect, and then she becomes a phenomenal villain then until the end of until the start of season three. So all that's gone really well for it. I think the way they wrote it as well, where they reveal, they pulled away the twists until they sting Seska with the information about the disease, the command codes, all this sort of stuff. They hid it from us as well, which is very well done because it
yeah.
comes sometimes with these kind of things. You sometimes reveal too much or
Hmm.
too little, but I think they got the balance right. I wouldn't say it was particularly the best written episode, but it delivered in that respect. There were some very good lines in between. I think Chakotay, despite, like, again, we'll be talking about acting now in a moment, Jerry, you can take the lead on that one. But at least the way Chakotay was written in this was good. And Janeway was written well. Tuvok was written, the lovely exchange at the end was very well done, and certainly the way Seska kind of like played at the end, all very good. When the veil was dropped and they all went from there, very well done. So
Yeah.
I'm flickering between an 8 to a 9 on writing. I don't know what yourself
Um,
felt about that,
I
Jerry.
don't. I don't think I'd go as high as a 9. As you said, it is certainly a very well written episode. Was it the one of the best written episodes? No.
Mm,
But it did have you guessing.
yeah,
No, I don't think anyone really guessed that Carey was going to be the traitor.
that's the one
But
thing I'd say is that it's a bit
but
obvious.
you're
Yeah.
thinking, is somebody actually? At one point, you think, is somebody trying to sting this on Seska?
Mm,
And what you like, you don't really know. You're like, Jesus, somebody could be doing this. Like, what's going on
mm,
here? Like, and then when she explains that the blood disease and all that she got, that's why it is, and the bone marrow from Cardassian. I'm like, oh, okay, well that's
Wrapped
nicely
up, yeah.
explained. And it's at that point you're like, that's no,
That was too
like
easy. Yeah.
that was no, that oh, it really is her. So yes, the writing was good. Was it absolutely stellar, spectacular? No, but it was really, really good. So I'd go an 8.
Yeah, fair enough then. And like I said, I think that's fairly representative with the rest of our episodes. Next up then is acting. A contentious category for me, Jerry. In the
Hmm.
positives, I've got Seska, and in the negatives, I've got Chakotay. I wonder if you are aligned with me on that one, or did anyone else stand out for you?
I would go right. So I'm actually going to go three positives to one negative. So
Okay.
the three standouts for me were the little bit that we saw of Maj Cullen. Um, I thought, he's an interesting character. I remember seeing this one for the first time, and I was like, yeah, he's an interesting character. He kind of has that real smarmy
He's a
look
presence to
about
him,
him.
doesn't
Yeah,
he?
he's a real
Yeah.
like really like I'm superior to you, but like my technology is not quite as good, but I'm still superior to you.
Mm,
So it's almost like I'm better than you. That's the way I look at it there. Then you've got Captain Jamie in this episode. I thought was actually brilliant.
mm,
You look at like how surprised she was in parts, and it's exactly what I said while we were watching it. Is that had it been the other actress that was going to be Captain Jamie, it just wouldn't have been as good because this
mm.
is what Kate Mulgrew's wheelhouse is emotion, and she's so good at it. So it's crazy that her wheelhouse is emotion, but
Mm.
yeah, she plays somebody who very much keeps the emotions in check, not to the same level as a Vulcan, but very much in check. And it's only those a few, very very few behind the scenes inner quarters type of thing where you see the veil drop,
Yeah.
and um, just fucking brilliant. Like you actually see it in the very first episode when she realizes she has to destroy the station, and she's not going to get her crew home for fucking 75 years.
Yeah.
So uh, she's so good at it. She's really good. And then of course Seska for me
Mm.
was just spectacular in this because it is very difficult to play a character one way and then to do a complete 180 and change the character
Mm.
mid episode. So you've got her playing this Bajoran character of Seska, Ensign Seska on Voyager. She is having some sort of thing, we'll say, with Chakotay.
Yeah.
There's something going on there. She's always happy, and it looks like she's trying to help. But as soon as as her veil is taken off, and they know that she is the Cardassian who's been helping the Kazon,
Mm.
her mannerisms, her speech, her voice, her eyes. Like you even said it yourself. There's the eyes of her Cardassian, and she
Yeah.
just flipped and she changed. That was spectacular. That was fantastic for Star Trek. That is brilliant, absolutely
Mm.
brilliant. And so those are my three positive. And then you've got the stick up your arse wooden pole that is Chakotay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to say it improves as the seasons go on, but it really doesn't. He
No.
stays exactly the same way. Even in really emotional episodes for Chakotay, he's still a tree.
Yeah.
So I obviously I've got my three positives, I've got my one negative. I'm gonna go so I'm gonna go 7.5.
7.5. That's fair. When you're talking there, I was kind of like the number seven was starting to flash in my mind here. I was like, yeah, I think 7.5. I think is
You
good.
were thinking about
Like,
7 and 9 too much. Take that poster down.
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Um, just comic book guy from The Simpsons, like downloading that picture of Jamie's like, oh, Captain Jamie. Oh. Anyway, so next up then is action, and it was a hot start, and then rather tepid for the rest of the episode. Kind of front loaded all the excitement to the start with the hook, and then
Yeah,
rolled into a sabotage story, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
yeah,
Um, I maybe it's just me watching the episode. Again, we've had a lot of episodes that are naturally tense. Like I'm thinking, again, we've had some phenomenal ones where, like, say, in the absence of an action scene, we have a natural tension or suspicion or paranoia throughout the episode, and
yeah.
if it comes across, like the one that's coming to mind here, just as I'm looking back here, is the Balance of Terror, where there is action in between, but it's also the submarine moments, the tension in the room type of thing, and I think that's just phenomenally well done.
Yeah, yeah,
And again, it just means you don't have to punctuate everything with that level of like pull planning action scenes left, right, and center. It helps, but not always. I feel like this episode was missing that bit of paranoia, that little bit of like visual language to get your point across. I think it was missing a scene of two people suspecting each other, the kind of way where there wasn't a kind of a thing of Carrie pointing the finger at somebody saying maybe you're the saboteur and stuff like that. Stuff like that does help with the flow of an episode.
yeah.
It's not seen as a distraction. If it's thematically consistent and you can get it done in time, throw it in, because it might save you from a fucking another scene with Chakotay like moping over his own reflection, the kind of way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you can make a choice based on that to see okay, what's the crew doing? Is the crew aware of this of what's going on here? And if it is, yes. If so, include the scene. If not, don't worry, don't bother about it. Keep it with the main characters. So I feel like it was missing a bit of that for me.
yeah.
You had the hot start with the Kazon, but then everything else was actually kind of weirdly polite after. And when you realize then what happened with Seska at the end, it kind of explains why everything was a bit so civil, because the Kazon were they kind of knew what the plan was all along, type of thing. So yeah, for me probably a 7 is what I was settling on. But what would you think, Jerry, yourself?
I personally would have gone lower.
Yeah,
Like that, they could have put in a bit more conflict,
yeah.
especially between the likes of Carrie and Seska, just to make, I'm not the spy, but no, you're the spy. No, I'm not the spy. You're the spy. Could have been like that, or there could have
Mm.
been more to it. So, I don't like going too low in any category. I really, really don't, because I think it's unfair. Because this is a show that we love, um, and I like to try and give them as much leeway as possible, we'll say, with
Yeah.
regards to scoring. But with this one, there just wasn't enough.
Mm.
A well-written episode, but parts that they could have done better on. But for this, in terms of conflict, no, I would have gone 5.
Okay, so let's go with we'll go with 6 then in that case. Then
Let's go
yeah,
with 6. Yeah, well, I'll meet in
yeah,
the middle. Go with 6. Yeah,
yeah. Even on that point, actually, what was missing was a skirmish at the end.
yeah.
What was the
Even a little.
episode of the Next Generation? Day to Day, where the Vulcan hype the Vulcan diplomat turned reveals herself to be Romulan, and then the Enterprise is getting shot at by the Romulan and needs to get the fuck out of there. This is the same scenario, and you have 3 Kazon warships about to hone in on the Voyager. Shoot a
Yeah,
few fucking phasers. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Show the sense of danger that you're
This
at here.
disable 1 or 2, and then sensors. There's another 5 on the way. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, it was missing something like that, and I think that's probably a fair point. Next up then is the effects, and again, another one I'm kind of a bit disappointed with to a certain degree. So with the effects, the biggest plus I suppose was seeing the Kazon in their kind of weird resiny form, where they all turned a little bit plastic, a little bit metallic, and they're kind of almost like they're stuck in foam almost. It was quite odd. Um, they didn't make much of a fuss about it in a
Mm.
weird way. It was like you saw kind of passing shots of it, and you see the arms and limbs kind of dragging out, but you didn't if they were if they really liked how it looked, they would have shown you more of it. You would have seen a big chunk of a Kazon in sick bay going, well, I see what's happened here is that he's basically expanded out into fucking fiberglass type of thing.
Yeah,
And they didn't do that, and I think it's probably because it didn't look that great to begin with, and they were just kind of shadowing around it and just kind of giving you the best bits of it.
mm.
I think one little effect I did like, and again, it's part of we haven't spoken about it, is the makeup for Seska. Sounds like a strange point, but again, to get across that she's now from the transition from Bajoran to Cardassian. Bajoran makeup is simple. It's this, and this. Whereas Cardassian, you have to do the whole regalia, and I misremember this episode thinking that Seska appears as a Cardassian at the end of the episode, but it doesn't work that way. I was probably mixing it up with Day to Day, and I kind of have to kind of like renege my own kind of disappointment with that. But I still think like there was a missed opportunity there to like for instance, like if she's genetically modified or genetically engineered, how does that work in a sense? Like, is there a kind of like an absence of prosthetics there, or is there like a DNA thing going on? And then like when we see her next year, her DNA has been reset and she's now comes up looking like a Cardassian. Like that's the stuff that there's no point asking because there is no answer to it in a sense. But it'd be nice to have seen oh, actually, this Bajoran stuff was actually was a prosthetic the whole time, and you
Yeah,
see the ridges come out in the skin. Or again, if she's injured, let's say, you could see like okay, we've had to give her a blood transfusion or marrow or whatever, and then you see, hang on, is that ridges over here, and you see her Cardassian form coming out. I think that would have been a lot more effective. But then again, she wouldn't have been a spy then.
yeah.
So there's a balance to that as well. Yeah, overall, I was a bit kind of like a bit disappointed in it, really. So again, I'm kind of flickering between 6 and 7 on this one.
Um, what, I'll join you with there. I'll go with six.
Yeah.
Like that, it was very basic. We'd already seen the Kazon. We know what their makeup
Mm.
looks like. Looking at the certain bits on the Kazon ship, you're like, I know you said you liked it, but I thought the stuff where they were kind of supposed to be in solid material was
Mm.
actually very, very cheaply done. It didn't look
Yeah.
very good because one thing we all know is that if a ship gets shot at and there's an explosion on the bridge, there's debris everywhere, but for some reason there's rocks. And why is there rocks on the ship? And this
Hmm.
was the same thing. This very much looked like, okay, so it looks like it's formed in solid matter, but yet there's like little pebbles and little dust things. And like, why?
Yeah.
What's I understand why they want to put extra in there to make it look like something has happened. Why are you putting stuff that shouldn't be anywhere near an actual spaceship?
Hmm.
So, I think, what do we say? What did I say? Six?
6. Yeah.
I'd go with a six on it, yeah, because it
Yeah.
just, to me, it was like, nah, just nah.
Yeah. That's to say, it's a passing grade, nothing else.
Yeah.
And that's also my opinion on the score. Personally, but Jerry, what was yourself on the music in this episode?
Well, you know me when it comes to Star Trek's episodes, score
Mm.
can very much make or break. If it's a very basic score, then it means there's nothing special about the episode, and unfortunately, that's what happened with this one.
Yeah.
It was very much just generic Voyager music with a hint of next gen in there as well, but it was very much a um, generic score episode. Now,
Mm.
that's not to say the score wasn't good because the Voyager score, the Voyager score is very good. But was there anything special about this? Did it give you any sense of anticipation or dread or fear, or like so many other episodes do? Like, you look at the Year of Hell and the music from the Year of Hell. I'm just choosing a specific Voyager episode
Yeah.
here. Year of Hell is just fantastic, and it goes with the tone of the episode. This was just generic Voyager.
Mm.
Almost similar to how the original series did their episodes, is that it was the same music throughout every single episode. It was just changed around for different parts,
Yeah.
and that's what I felt like this was. So, as it wasn't amazing, fantastic. I'd go 5 to a 6, just for the simple fact it's just generic music.
Yeah. 6 was my score on that as
I'll
well.
go with you. I'll go with you on a 6.
Yeah, I think the reason I feel 6 as well is that as I said, like they didn't get any decisions wrong in a sense where like they had the right music in the right places and they kind of left things quiet when they needed to. So it was like competent was but unremarkable is what I would say there. Um, I think it's also like again this is also a symptom of perhaps doing this episode a little bit too early.
Yeah,
Because like at this stage, like there should have been a more emotional punch to having someone like Seska betraying the crew, and there wasn't. But that being said, this episode will suffer so that basics is so much better. And if we ever get to review basics, I think the effort that the energy they're going to put in to make that episode feel more unique, I'm thinking there is that kind of like that swell of there's always like a little bit of like anxious music when they see Voyager flying off and the rest of them are still on the planet. It's like, like it's almost like the music is going, oh shit, we're lost, we're fucked, and there's like it's like okay, we don't know what's
Yeah,
gonna happen here, and then that music loops back around then when Voyage when Paris and the Chucky, you have my head now, they sabotage the ship, and it looks like Seska and Kulla and everyone else is suffering for their sins here. And again, the music loops back around then, and you have the same kind of like duality to it. So I think the energy they miss out on this episode will platform the rest of them and springboard the rest of them. It's like this is an episode that very much feels like the start of an arc for that, and that it's kind of suffering for that a little bit. Next up then is the scenes. Refreshingly, a category that I think that does quite well. Nothing remarkable. Like again, my metric is always like, can you cut out a scene from this episode, upload it by itself, and put yourself back into that episode and know exactly what happens next and beforehand and stuff like that. There's none I would say that does that immediately, but all the scenes work very well, and there's some very very good ones, especially with the Seska reveal is the best one by a country mile, and it is the way Martha Hackett plays it, and the way she kind of like she basically transitions from being meek and mild, I fancy Chakotay Seska, to I am going to fucking murder all of you sort of Seska.
yeah.
The veil, there's like two veils drop in that scene, and it's very well done. There's a nice I like the scene at the end of the show as well between Tuvok and Chakotay, where Chakotay's trying to like rationalize why he couldn't notice that there was two spies in his camp, and Tuvok's going like basically the Vulcan equivalent of like, dude, shit happens.
Yeah,
Essentially
that's
like it's a
essentially
nice
how he did
dynamic.
it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but like Vulcans are logicians, and like they need to have an answer for everything, and he just said like your instinct was wrong. It's an animal instinct, and you got it wrong. You
get
know,
over yourself.
get over yourself, exactly. And again, there was few other little bits and pieces over the scene. One I liked was Janeway finding out about the Federation technology in the end, because she is basically between a rock and a tree in terms of emotion. So she had to basically be more performative with her outrage.
Yeah,
It's like Tuvok is going like, oh yes, no, it's definitely Federation technology. And Chakotay's going adjective noun, and so James like, what the fuck? I can't believe this. Chakotay, feel something. It's like that's I enjoyed that scene in particular. So that was really good. So for the scenes, I'm actually going to give this an 8. I think I think it's earned an 8 from me on that one.
for me, there was no one scene, as you said, there was no one scene that really stood out more than anyone else, except maybe the reveal and Martha Hackett's change. If I compare, we don't have that many female Cardassians to compare her
Yeah,
performance to, but if there was one, it would be from the episode where Thomas Riker steals the Defiant.
yeah,
So when he steals the Defiant, we have Cisco going to Central Command to oversee the efforts of finding the Defiant. So you've got him and Ducat trying to find them, and then you have a female Obsidian Order operative comes in, and she's very almost Vulcan, like very like cool and calm, but eventually she says something, but she says it, and as she's saying it, the eyes open really wide,
yeah.
and she has this smile on her face. I'm like, oh, Martha Hackett, she had to have taken inspiration from that, because it was so sinister in how it was done. You're like, oh Jesus Christ, I wouldn't want to meet her down a dark alley. It was.
You remember the episode where O'Brien goes on trial, in Cardassia,
Yeah,
and the judge in that is female as well, and she has this kind of like this. She has the wide-eyed as well. She wide-eyed as well. She's excited by the process.
yeah,
Like, oh goody, I get to like send an innocent to death. Fantastic. Like she's urging the trial to continue, and like she gets visibly outraged when common sense is prevailing.
yeah,
And then when when basically the jig is up and they realize it's a whole thing, she goes, well, I'm glad that we found a resolution to all of this. And it's just like the eyes retract. I was like, fucking Cardassian bastards. Like,
Yeah, it's very much a trait of theirs, and I think Martha
yeah.
Harker did it very well. So I'll go with you on this. It wasn't one standout scene, but there was many little scenes that kind of
Mm.
gelled all together, and it was good. So what did you say? An eight, was it?
An H, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with eight.
Okay, very good. Next one then is a character category, and again, I think the Seska will take the lead on this one. Very much, it's the again, it's one of those where like you're bringing a crewman up to the front and trying to make them a more relevant character, and this happens a lot in Star Trek. Again, we mentioned O'Brien a good bit in that one, and he's apparently almost a template of it, really. Well, I suppose you could argue Chekhov is if you're going from the original series, because he was just a generic crewman. Like, he wasn't even in the first season at all, but from the second season onwards, he just basically just ends up getting the same gig a few weeks in a row, and then he's part of the crew. But they make a point of him being like he is the youngest. He's kind of a bit of a prodigy. He's a bit of this, and like obviously a bit of a Russian stereotype goes without saying, nuclear vessels, but he's very endearing. Like it's nice to have a kind of like it was a change from the norm of having when you have like a Russian stereotype, they're always duplicitous or a spy or fucking they showing some level of Soviet brutality in their personality. And then you have Chekhov, who's this like child on the bridge, and he's like a little bit comedic, a little bit of a goofball. And I was like,
Yeah,
do you know what? That's a nice twist on a Russian character, because you don't see that often in TV shows. When have you seen like a Russian comedian, and or even from that, even like expand it out to that other part of the world.
mm,
There's always that kind of like perception that like Slavic or Balkan people have to be kind of rough around the edges and stuff like that. It's like no, there's other parts of their national like culture that we don't know about, and maybe we should bring that forward and share with the rest of the world.
mm,
Does anyone know anything about Bosnian comedy? Probably not. Maybe this is the time to fucking show it. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's the same with anything else. Like it's like so with a formula like this, when you do elevate a character like this, you have to get it right. And I'm thinking with O'Brien, you had the episode with I actually meant to say this day where he's getting married to Keiko. So that's one part of it there. They nailed that episode because it should be the most important thing going on, but actually is just another day on the Enterprise. And that's also kind of like, a very Irish thing in a sense. Like, oh yeah, I got married there today, but you never guess what happened the same fucking day. That bitch of a Vulcan, and like he'd be going on about that instead.
Peter Jason. Now I tell you, when I say Vulcan, I don't mean Vulcan because she was a bitch of a Romulan, and I mean
She's an
didn't.
absolute bollocks.
I tell you, a man Pickard, he couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. He couldn't. You want to see
And
the
you know
amount of
what?
whiskies he drank down in town forward after that? Then be Jesus.
And you know what? She was fucking invited to the wedding, and she turned it down. The bitch.
Yeah, miserable
That was the
bitch.
worst part of it.
And no, no, no. The worst part was she didn't even send a gift, not a card, nor nothing, not a few bob in the card, nor nothing for the holidays. Nothing.
Yeah, she wanted
Great.
her dinner first before the bride and groom. I tell you, it's the diabolical.
And,
No
and I
wonder
tell
she
you what, and she said she wanted to wear white as well. I said, "Will you ever fuck off?"
one of the first dance before everyone else as well. It's a shocking shit altogether. Shocking shit. So yeah, actually another great example from Next Generation is Barclay. But Barclay was like a new character straight out from the box in a sense. He didn't start off as a crew as part like like generic crewman number four. He was like, here's a new character. And I think with Voyager, I think what you realize is that like Voyager is supposed to be a close knit group because they are all together in the Delta Quadrant and they all know each other very well. And you don't get many examples of like, oh, here's this crewman we like seeing. The only one that really comes to mind is probably the Wildmans, and that's only because like Seven or Jerry Ryan, I think, takes deliberate pleasure in saying Naomi Wildman in the most deadpan way possible every single episode. Like she's waiting for the fucking studio audience to applaud in the background, kind of way. So like in a way, having like losing that kind of level of like auxiliary characters, shall we say, is a bit of a missed opportunity in Voyager. Would I like to know a bit more about Joe Carey? Sure, he sounds like a nice lad, even if he is from Cork. Would I like to see more of Torres's crew in engineering? Sure, I'm sure they have names. Who fucking knows? We never met them. Like there should be other people. Does Tom Paris have a friend outside of Harry Kim? Probably doesn't because he's a bit of a twat. Doesn't matter. Let's fucking throw in some people here. Yeah, like I said, it's a close knit group. It's not like the Enterprise where they can land on a planet and find someone new. They have to work with who they have. And again, when you see a character like this that hones in on a personality, you see what kind of opportunities they missed along the way in the show, um, because it ultimately, some of those characters that you did put a bit of the groundwork in at the start might have helped you with a filler episode, like later on in the seasons. Um, Again, I feel like my negative on this one is probably with with Chakotay, mainly because like he really shouldn't be falling for this, but he is. So like, maybe that's something he needs to explore, and they ultimately just don't in the
Yeah.
end. Although in fairness, like he does get quite a lot of manipulation in the later episodes when Seska's involved. So I think he will at least get his bit of his laurels there. But overall, I think it's a fairly strong eight. Probably not a nine, but a strong eight for me on characters.
I'll go eight as well. Like obviously, Seska carried this episode.
Hmm.
A couple of little performances here and there, which were good as well. Like introducing more to Carey. You've got more with obviously with Janeway and Tuvok. Even the little bit that we got of what's his name, Neelix was good.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't give a 10 because literally because of the wooden the wooden log that is Chakotay.
Hmm.
But no, I'll go an 8 because she at least deserves that. So yeah, I'll go
Yes.
an 8.
That's fair. That's fair. Last but not least, then are the consequences of this episode. And Jerry, as the lore master general of Star Trek, I think it's fair that you take this category away and tell me what the consequences are of this episode.
Well, the consequences for Voyager are in the extreme. We have constant attacks and raids on Voyager to try and steal technology and or steal Voyager itself. And it's all orchestrated because of this one episode. Had she not defected, it's a new point. She
Hmm.
defected to the Kazon. She didn't want to go home. She just wanted to create her own power base. She said it herself, we can
Yep.
create a power base here. If this was a Kardashian ship, we'd already be home. She doesn't want to be home though, because there's nothing for her to go home to.
Hmm.
Here, here there's a way for her to literally conquer vast, vast areas of the Delta Quadrant by taking over the Kazon. And to do that, she needs Voyager. So that's why she constantly comes for Voyager,
Hmm.
which leads to Basics Part 1 and 2, where she finally gets the prize that she wants and realizes then when she has it that Cullen really doesn't care and doesn't really need her all that much. And he doesn't really
Yeah.
he doesn't care about her at all, to the point where we only see he has a little bit of compassion for her when she dies.
Hmm.
Um, when he goes in and he cries that she's dead, but he immediately takes her baby or his baby and runs away.
Yeah.
So it certainly sets up for a whole season and a half of trickery and deception and bloodletting that the Kazon try and do against Voyager, which culminates in Basics, which is one of the better kind of early season two-parters,
Yeah.
and it eventually sets up the demise of Seska and leaving the Kazon behind. Because
Hmm.
as soon as that arc finishes, they have left Kazon space behind, and we don't see them again. We see a smattering of Kazons um, throughout the next 5 seasons, but they're very few and far between, and they're just
Yeah.
background characters as well. We do see them in that episode with the Tom Paris and the Hollow Novel,
Oh yes, that's right.
um,
Yeah.
but that's just a flashback, and Seska's in that as well. So that's the only
Hmm.
reason we see them. We don't really see them after that. But those would be the consequences that it sets up for a season and a half of constant attacks and constant trickery by the Kazon and by Seska to try and take control of Voyager, which is some of the more entertaining episodes that we'll see over the next, say, season and a half. So in terms of a score, I'd go an 8.
I was gonna negotiate for a nine on this one, mainly because it is solely because you get like a good two seasons, a good solid story arc out of this.
Yeah,
Like again, it would be kind of akin to say like in the episode in Deep Space Nine where like the Dominion arc start. Like, I think it is just called the Jem'Hadar, where it's when the Jem'Hadar like crashes into the Odyssey,
yeah,
and that starts off the Dominion arc essentially, and you're going like now that as a start of the arc is fucking massive. It's huge. And we're only recently doing a rewatch of Deep Space Nine ourselves here, and we just finished it on the episode where the Changeling has infiltrated the Defiant, and it's that little Odo, he whispers into Odo saying it's too late, we're already here, type of thing. And it's like, and that's the end of the season. It's like fucking
yeah,
brilliant. What
yeah.
a way to set up the whole season.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. That, yeah.
So I think this episode does deserve. I think it rationed off its own kind of like self-worth in order to give a plot story, to give a good story arc for the following season. And I would negotiate that. I think that like that as a consequence of that, like that, I think that would be pushing forward from a production standpoint, and then from a like a kind of an in-universe standpoint, this does kind of like push that this like sector of Kazon really high up in the food chain. And normally if there any of the Kazon that come that are the Voyager encounter is from Kulla's pact, and then obviously Seska becomes a reoccurring villain in that piece. I think she's probably the main villain in season 2, as I recall, because I don't really think there was anyone other massive like reoccurring villains in that piece, because this is pre-Borg. And
Pre-Borg, the only thing I could think of would be the Vidians. Now there was no central
yeah.
character, but there was the race, the Vidians, that would have been them. Between them and Seska and the Kazon, they were the main villains for the first two seasons. No one else came close to them. Once we went into season 3, there might have been a little bit more of the Vidians. They'd passed through Kazon's place, more of the Vidians. And I
Yeah.
think after that, then the Vidians were gone as well. So yeah, good two seasons anyway. For the first two seasons, our main threats were Seska and the Kazon and the Vidians, but more so the Kazon, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough then. So,
So you're negotiating 9. You know what? I'll give you 9.
okay.
I'll
Fair
give you
enough.
9.
I argued well apparently. So, um, so Jerry,
I'm just sick of listening to you.
to be fair, after 2 hours of this video, I would be too. I think the same myself when I'm editing this back. As a God, shut the fuck up, man. Honestly, you just keep talking and fucking talking. In any case, so this will come as no shock to you, Jerry, but this episode has not troubled our top 10.
No.
I know. Let's all pretend to be shocked.
Ah.
I know. It's awful, Joe. It's awful, Joe. But and unfortunately, it doesn't even trouble our top 20. Um, in fact, it is actually one of our lowest ranked episodes so far. It lands at 72.5 out of a maximum 100. So if let's refreshing enough, let's look at the bottom of the table for a spell. This slots in just behind the the trio of the of fellow Voyager episode Timeless, and the Next Generation double of Conspiracy and the Battle. They are all joint 26th at the moment.
Okay.
So State of Flux is now our new 29th episode in the pecking order, coming in just ahead of the double of the Doomsday Machine from the original series, and another Voyager episode, Tinker Tenor, Dr. Spy. We're both at 72. Dear Doctor and Impulse from Enterprise are ranked lower than that, along with the Enterprise incident from the original series, the Arsenal of Freedom from the Next Generation, and unfortunately the Voyager Conspiracy, still holding up the bottom out of the 59 out of a possible 100. If you want a refresher of the top 10 for those uninitiated, and again, this perhaps will be a little bit of a hook to join us for the next few episodes of this series. Our current 10th place is the Thaw from Voyager at 84.5. Joint 9th at present is Empok Nor from Deep Space Nine and the Year of Hell. Do you know what? I think I have this wrong. Bear with. I think I had this wrong the last time as well, and I never fixed it. Yes, I do have it wrong. Oh, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. The graphic is correct as you're seeing up on screen. It's me that's incorrect. Emissary from Deep Space Nine is the 10th best episode on our list. That's on at 84. The Thaw then follows that, a half point ahead of that. Then we have the joint seventh place between Year of Hell from Voyager and Empok Nor from Deep Space Nine. All Those Who Wander from Strange New Worlds is at sixth place. That's the Gorn episode for those uninitiated, from season one. Amok Time from the original series is fifth on the fifth place in our list at 88 out of 100. Best of Both Worlds, two-parter, is 90.5 from The Next Generation. Equality and Mercy, another Strange New Worlds entry, shares second place with In the Pale Moonlight from Deep Space Nine. Yesterday's Enterprise is still currently our top episode from The Next Generation at 95.5. But as you mentioned before,
For
the
now.
end of this arc gives it a strong challenger. And
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
so, this journey that we're on is very much a means to an end, because we are very much. Do you know what? You could say that we are walking the way of the warrior, if you like, with these episodes.
Oh,
Um, so
jeez.
we can you can hazard a guess what lies ahead of us at the end of this arc. But for now, anyway, Jerry. Overall, it just ended up being quite a standard Voyager episode at the end.
Standard episodes, good but standard.
Good for
It was
standard, yeah.
it was never going to trouble the ones at the top. It's never going to even trouble the top 10.
Hmm.
But it's not to say it wasn't a good episode. It was enjoyable. It was something different that took its idea from Deep Space Nine. So yeah, good episode, solid episode, just not good enough to rise high up the ranks. But not all episodes can.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, we are dealing with like high quality episodes from like a long standing franchise. So like it's only fair. Like I think some of them are like again, if you're dividing this by 10, like it's still a 7 out of 10 episodes, which is still pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
It's like it's not your standard filler affair, because obviously we're skipping half of that stuff. If you want an example of like a filler episode, the Voyager Conspiracy is your kind of baseline of that. And
Yeah.
even then, I think we were like said like yeah, this is actually pretty good for a filler. So in any case, we're on to bigger and better things now with our next episode, which is from Enterprise. Because even in the kind of fleeting days of Star Trek Enterprise, they wanted to make things spicy, and they needed a villain. They needed a threat, a danger, something that was going to get people to stand up and recognize things. And realistically, the Zindi stepped up by carving a massive fucking slice through Earth, which will probably do that, to be honest.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, we get to see how exactly the crew of the Enterprise, and indeed well, not necessarily Starfleet, but at that point, but yes, I suppose the kind of makings of Starfleet, how they deal with it, and kind of the ultimate impact of that. So what we are doing here is the I think is the season 2 opener, if I'm not mistaken. Um, or is it indeed the season 2 finale? I
Season two
believe yes,
finale.
season 2 finale.
Season
Yes,
finale.
it is season 2 finale, The Expanse. And again, this is also it is the culmination of the story up to this point, where Archer was dealing with basically some issues, so we say, with the Klingons, and then transitioning into what the fuck is going on with Earth. And yeah, it's a pretty good episode. It's the launch point for the Zindi arc for the following season, which is a very strong arc by Star Trek standards. A little bit underrated, I would say personally.
Mhm.
Mainly because I think Enterprise overall was quite underrated. It never really got its plaudits compared to the rest of the works in Star Trek. And yeah, we shall see how that fares up then compared to the rest of our episodes. But we have reached the end of this always wonderful conversation about Star Trek, and we come to the point of the show that we all look forward to, which is when Jerry Soule promotes his own stuff, because he is the star and I am not.
I don't know. Do I have anything to promote? Well, I suppose we're in the new year now. We are plodding along, and we're going to have Dublin Comic Con again come March, the spring edition.
Hmm.
Can't say too much about the guests for that one yet, but watch the space. There are now between when we're recording and when this is actually released, which is early January, there may be a few more guests announced. I know we had some Rick and Morty voice actors
Mm.
announced so far. We have one of the actors from Sons of Anarchy has also been announced. Exactly who I'll be talking to there, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I might not be talking to any of them. This is the thing. I think the guys from Dublin Comic Con have kind of realized that some of the most popular guests that they have gotten
Mm.
over the last few years are the Star Trek guests. They tend to get the bigger crowds. They get the big queues. They get lots of people getting autographs and photos with them. So they tend to be very popular. So it's something that they've stepped up in their search for more guests,
Mm.
and they're very much going for Star Trek guests. Which ones I can't say right now because I can't tell you anything until it's been officially announced or
Yeah.
until they have officially locked the person in. Because I don't want to be saying a name and then they never get announced, or that person is announced and they don't turn up, or something along those lines. And I certainly don't want to be. I certainly don't want to be telling you things that I shouldn't be telling you.
Yeah, you don't have to
Um,
jinx it as such. Yeah.
Exactly, but and watch for March announcements as well,
Mm.
because there may be a couple of uh, surprises there as well. I can
Mm.
say no more. I'm not even going to be giving clues at this point,
Yeah.
um, because I'd rather not say and have it be officially announced, and then we can talk about it. Rather than if I were to give a hint now, somebody were to guess, and then that person didn't turn up. I think that
Yeah.
that would be terrible as well.
That'd be
But
worse. Yeah, exactly.
believe
You're
me
right.
when I say, if you're a Star Trek fan for 2025 Dublin Comic Con, I'm I can't say whether it's March or August, but if you're a Star Trek fan, be excited.
Indeed.
That's all. That's
Indeed.
all. That's all I'm going to say. I will say no more. And that doesn't only include guests. So
Hmm.
we shall see how it goes.
Indeed, you will, and like I said, I fully endorse this this return to form because again, if you don't know anything about Dublin Comic Con, just know for the fact that whenever they do get anyone from Star Trek in, this man right over here reverts back to child form and he gets very very giddy and very very excited. And even then, even if you don't get started, even whoever you do kind of end up having a conversation with, you get on really well with them as well.
Yeah.
Like you'd be surprised with the kind of dynamic you do pick up with people, just like just having a conversation and getting
I,
to know them a bit more live on
that's it.
stage.
This is the thing I will say about all the guests that I've interviewed so far for Dublin Comic Con, is that I haven't interviewed an arsehole yet.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I literally, like, a hand on heart, honestly, I can say there has not been one arsehole in the entire group of people that I've interviewed so far. They have been exceptionally nice people. Robert
Mm.
Picardo was amazing. And when I say amazing, I do mean amazing, to the point where we had a quick conversation backstage after I interviewed him. And I had asked him to, could he possibly record a video for me for a friend of mine who had recently lost his mother.
Mm.
And he said, absolutely no problem. And we did it. And he he said, what do you want me to do? And I was like, well, if you can just kind of give him like a little heartfelt message and maybe slag him then afterwards. And he was like, oh, I don't know about that. I was like, no, no, believe me, when it comes to this guy, you have no idea how much you'll appreciate it. So um, he recorded it, and um, he started off, talking about his own experiences with loss and stuff like that. Then just went in an absolute tirade of horrible things he said about my friend. I'm like, this is fantastic. And then he brought me and my other friend in on the video as well.
Yeah.
And it was the most perfect thing he could have done. And he was like, listen,
Mm.
I've done this for you. It's a favor to you. It can't go anywhere. It can't go online. This is purely 100% for you and for your friend. And it was just, to say he was a class act is an understatement. When
Yeah.
my first conversation I had with him, and he said, can you bring me to the toilet? I was like, of course I can. Yeah, no problem. So I brought him around and had a quick chat on the way. And when he came out, a quick chat coming out, and he said, is there any chance I could get a coffee? I was like, of course. What would you like? He said, double espresso if you've got it. I'm just really tired. He'd obviously only come in a day or two beforehand.
Yeah.
So he was really, really tired. But we had a quick chat about it. He was like, that's really nice coffee. And talking about, is there any nice Italian places in Dublin? Of course, you think of the name Picardo, I don't automatically think, oh, he must be Italian or Italian
Yeah.
American. So researching him and doing that, like, Italian, I'm like, geez, I'd never put two and two together. Such
Mm.
nice guy, so honest to God. And the other guests that I've Christina Chong as well
Yeah,
from Star Trek. This
Stranger World.
Stranger Worlds. Oh my God, we couldn't talk Star Trek because of the situation that we were in, because of the strike.
Yeah,
You
so you
know,
just talked about everything
we
else.
could talk. We talked about everything else. She got me dancing on the stage for Christ's sake. You know, she was playing her new song. She got me dancing on stage. Again, a classic, really really nice.
You have a nice little tingle of intrigue listening to what you're saying there. But yes, certainly we shall have more episodes in between amongst them anyway, and we can certainly add some more flesh in the bones the sooner we get to Comic Con March, Dublin Comic Con in March. But for now, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our episode. Thank you all very much for jumping along, including our tangents and everything in between. It is not a conversation between me and Jerry if you don't go on a massive fucking rabbit hole down somewhere else for a change. But that's just the way we do business. And hopefully you enjoyed our little conversation. Please let us know below the line what you thought of this episode yourself. Are you one of those rare, creatures known as a Chakotay stan? Please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Um, we'd love to. We'd like to honestly just want to talk to you and just might even have you on the show just to see what you're like. And because it's rare. Like it's so unusual to have someone like that exists in the world. But in any case, there's various other things to talk about from the episode. Were we fair with the score? Did we do it justice? Were we harsh? Were we unfair? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And again, give us ideas for other episodes to review. And we are obviously on this, shall we say, this combative arc, this war-oriented arc. We are going to have ideas for what follows after this. Coming into 2025. So by all means, let us know what you'd like to see us do on the show, and we shall consider it. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for jumping on and watching this episode of the Best of All Worlds. By all means, check out all the other episodes we've done of this show over the years and see what we thought of the very much the episodes that gave you the scores you saw earlier on today, and let us know if you think we did them justice as well. But for now, we'll sign off as we always do on this channel with some very modest mumbly words.